Not one. Grumpy for you've been grumpy for the past, he's been grumpy for the past 35 years. Grumpy. He is back.
Not one.
Bob taking that. What is your Bob doing, Bob?
Are you
Madam
kidding?
Mayor, we are live streaming.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody, folks. Thank you. We are now live and we have to act respectable. Good evening and welcome to the special city commission meeting of Lake Worth Beach on Thursday, May 29th, 2025. May we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga,
Present.
Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Here by Zoom.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Segrich.
Present.
And Ms. Malega will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of the United
of
States
the
of
United
America,
States of America,
republic
and
for
to which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Yeah. Don't talk. At all.
Yeah. Well, we have a full agenda and a lot of public interest, apparently. Always good to have our friends and neighbors here. The first bit of business is the finalization of our draft policy of public-private partnerships for unsolicited P3s for unsolicited proposals. Does staff want to make a presentation? Does staff want to make a presentation?
Did not have a formal presentation set because we've kind of gone over this multiple times. Earlier on this week, I did push out, it was added to the backup. Commissioner comments as far as on the P3. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go through those.
No,
It was just on Tuesday it was received. So I sent it out Tuesday night and it was added to the backup.
no. It was? And my book has no updates on it.
Well, Commissioner
aware.
Boy is on, and I know that I don't know if he wanted to speak about any of it.
Let me just ask you this. As it appears on the agenda, the backup material,
Yes.
are there material changes to that?
To what was
The
posted, the actual draft.
The actual draft?
There was a good amount added.
And so I'm just trying to clarify this. On the website,
That's when it was received. It was received on Tuesday. I emailed it out to each of you on Tuesday evening after our meeting. And then it was added to the backup once we received it. So
Is this
And it-
is this the things that we as a commission, the changes that we gave you on our one-on-ones?
that's correct. But this was the entire draft proposal, all 27 pages.
Right.
There were large sections added to that. So I couldn't just pull out segments. I had to send the entire document with all the track changes in it. But again, that was received on Tuesday.
I
So that's
didn't
as,
get it on Tuesday.
yeah, I'm a little concerned. So on Tuesday,
Mhm.
you sent us an email with substantial changes to something we're considering on Thursday.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have a problem with that?
I have a major problem with
I
that.
do, and I believe there was a deadline that Jamie had instilled a deadline for when he wanted any
Friday.
changes. And after that, I don't think we should take them.
It was the week before. I mean, we all had 3 weeks for our one-on-ones. I had my one-on-one with you before I even
Yeah.
went away. And that was the first week of May.
Mm.
So for us to get things less than 48 hours later, I'm not in favor of that. I haven't even received it.
Mr.
or read it.
Um,
Yeah, I'm just looking at the email now. And then
I'm not
we don't
comfortable
want to
with
push
that
things down the road again.
I'm not comfortable with that as well.
Right. Mr. McBoy, do you know anything about this?
Yes, I spoke with the assistant manager and indicated that last week I was swamped with totally different issues, and that I would get him, that I asked whether if I were to do edits, that they would be shared with the commission, and he assured me that they would. And as soon as he got them, within the limits of other meetings he had that day, I got them to him on Tuesday morning. That's when I completed them.
2 days ago.
The ideas are substantially some slight variations, but it's substantially the same as the ones that I presented back in February, March. I don't remember exactly when
We're the
we.
same. You
when-
might have gotten them to us on time this time. I've got some lights. on.
Madam Mayor, with
Yeah.
all due respect,
Yeah.
that sort of disrespect of somebody who has I was the only person who took the trouble to look at
Not
this in
true.
detail
Not
and make
true.
All right,
changes.
we're not gonna, all right,
3 weeks
stop,
ago.
stop, everyone stop. We're not doing that.
Uh,
all right,
Nobody
we have
else
lights
put
on,
in
Mr.
written
McFoy.
changes.
Mr. McFoy, we have lights on. And I'm telling you, we have lights on here.
He doesn't know that there was no one else with changes.
Oh, right, right.
Because there were none
All right, Mr.
submitted.
McVoy, I'm
That was
calling on,
indicated.
Mr. McVoy, I'm calling on Sarah Malega.
Thank you. I had noticed that the changes that I had tabbed and highlighted and went through with Mr. Brown 3 weeks ago, none of my suggestions or stuff was on in the backup. So I assumed that we were going to give consensus now for whatever changes we wanted as a body to be put in the final document. And that's why I didn't raise a big stink when I didn't see my changes in the backup draft, because I thought we were going to agree or disagree and move forward. So I don't believe that 2 days or 48 hours.
Well, that's, no,
So, do you want us just to go through one at a time
on,
like we did
hold on.
before?
hold on one second. Let me just, let me keep going down the road. Ms. May,
I don't have any significant changes that I want to talk about. However, I do think it is very unfair to staff and to us to put this out less than 48 hours.
and the one that is in my book is not even the updated one because they don't update the books. Mr. Segrich.
I would like to make a motion to review the draft as it's been presented in the book, per the timeline when backup was due.
Cutting off the one that when it was due.
Yeah, as
Right.
it's been, as it was published, with no additions, and we review it as it was published per the per the deadlines.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay, yeah,
Nay.
thank you. Okay, so we are now in a situation, Mr. Brown,
Hello.
hello. You seem.
What I was gonna say, the conversations I had with each one of you, it was one or two comments here or there. So it was such a small
Right,
amount that I thought it would be easiest just to kind of maybe go
Okay.
one by one because it wasn't a significant amount of changes to this. So it seemed easy enough to just knock it out right here.
okay.
But again, I did let Commissioner McVoy know, he did ask, could it be added to the backup and sent to each of you once received? And I did want to make sure I did that.
You did do
Again,
that.
I
You did do
wanted to
that.
make sure that did go out to you
Yeah.
guys and
That's
obviously
not on
to
you.
as far as the time frame,
Yeah.
and if you had time to review it or not.
Yeah,
but I
we're,
did wanna make
we're
sure that
not
went out.
accepting that. So it seems like we are in a better place now in the past 10 seconds. I mean, I met one-on-one and I had questions and clarifications, but I really had no changes.
Okay, I just had a couple suggestions.
Okay, let's hear from Ms. Malega.
Page 5,
Hold on.
number 4, it says any
wait, wait,
other
wait,
slow down, we gotta get there.
Oh.
Sweetheart, let's get to the picture.
page, well, I'm using the book thing that he gave us originally.
So is it a definition that you're talking about?
No, it's got under proposed project, page
Yeah,
5, number 4.
no. So,
Any other projects, city? does-
Any other project, the city, I wanted to add the city
Page 5.
commission designates
Page
as a
5,
proposed project. Because
Okay.
it says the city, and the city could be staff, could be anybody. So I'd like to add commission to that line.
for number 4?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
ma'am? Sir?
Real quick. So if we, and maybe we could start real quick on page 3 under the actual definition of city. Do we
And-
need to change what that actual definition is for city? Because anywhere you find that word in the document, it's actually defined here,
And that was the
which
one
says the city of
question I
Lake Worth
had.
Beach, Florida, which may act through its city commission or city manager. Do we need to change that? It says as context applicable law permits.
That was exactly my question that I
Yeah.
had when I spoke with you. And I think, and I looked back at it after we spoke, I mean, it does say, which may, whatever the applicable law. Because there were questions, when, at what point does the commission get involved, or what point does the staff get involved? In
Correct.
terms of vetting, things like
Mhm.
that. So, and you assured me that it meant everything would come to the commission.
Yep.
But, is there any, I mean,
we just go now.
which may act with the city or the city manager as the context and,
I'm just thinking of the future because whoever is sitting in the city manager's office, for them to spend staff time or money to go down a road for a triple P that the commission may not support. I thought that it was important for, if there's going to be time and money spent, the commission should be approving it before it even gets into that, the money spending
Well,
part.
we had that conversation. We've had that conversation about that, about the different steps. And that's one thing I wouldn't mind talking about here. Yeah, I'm just looking for it. Refresh my memory. Is that initial $1,000, $5,000 thing in here or not? It's not, correct?
It's not.
Good, okay, which I'm comfortable with.
Before I put a lot of time kind of reorganizing, I wanted to make sure that was something everyone was on
Yeah.
board with. So
Yeah. That was Mr. Segrich's suggestion, and I have thought about it and I considered both of them and I'm not in favor, but if there's somebody serious about this and they're gonna come to the city, let them do the due diligence that they need to do, which shows us that they are actually interested and have at some sort of means and wherewithal to do it. So that was my feeling on that it would come to us. Everything would come to us as long as they paid $25,000 and it was a complete application, the commission would see it. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, maybe that would be helpful.
Something, otherwise it's a little too vague for me, that language. Because again, depending on who's sitting up here or who's in that office, the opinions change and vary.
Well, that's always gonna happen.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how do we protect the city in the future? So I don't want backdoor deals being done 2 years from now, 6 years from now, and the public doesn't know about it. The commission doesn't know about it. And then all of a sudden it's before the commission. So I'm trying to figure out how do we protect any kind of triple P 20 years from now coming forward for the city?
Well, the way it acts now, the way this is written is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that some group says, we want to do a triple P project. We're going to spend money to do it. We're going to do a really good presentation so that it's fairly complete. The application is complete when we submit it and it will be submitted and the commission will get a chance to look at that. The staff will not vet that. That will be a commission function, correct?
Correct.
Maybe that's what we want to make more clear.
Well, that's why under proposed projects, that language, it says any other project the city designates as a proposed project, it should be the city commission.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. That's fine.
How does the rest of my colleagues feel?
I think we're okay with that.
Good.
Okay.
Mr. McBoy, you okay with that?
Could you repeat again?
That
What the
instead of just having
proposals-
yes, on any other project, the city commission designates as a proposed project, not just the city, but the city commission. I think that's a good idea.
So can I just clarify what you're saying? So we're just changing this to city commission for
Correct.
number 4,
Correct.
and then that does not preempt or
No.
change anything with the definition of city
No.
throughout the rest of the
Correct.
document. The city manager is included
Correct.
in the other
This is just
versions
for
of
that-
city.
For that line.
Thank you.
Mr. McBoy, yes or no on that?
I guess I would like to make a request if I might.
Well, we're talking about this particular thing right now, yes or no to adding the word commission.
When would you like me to make my request?
When
Since I am a voting member of this
the
board
question
also.
before you, Mr. McBoy, let's just take yes or no to adding commission to number 4.
Sure.
Okay, so we have.
Madam Mayor, just one clarification.
Yeah.
So under the statute, in order to submit an unsolicited proposal, it has to be a proposed project.
Mhm.
So if the city commission has to identify it as a proposed project, then are you saying that no one can submit an unsolicited proposal for some great idea they have unless the city commission first designated it as a proposed project?
I don't
No,
think
not
that's your
which
intent.
designates it.
No.
So if someone submitted an unsolicited proposal and it came forward for your review and you would say, yes, now this is a proposed project.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
sounds-
having some kind of control of the process before the process gets on the train.
Okay,
Is
because
that-
that
is that
may be a
allowable?
little disconnect with the statute. Because the statute really is supposed to be saying to the P3 world, here's what are available for proposed projects that you could come up with a great solicited or unsolicited proposal. And if we're saying the city commission has to designate itself, this may be something that we want to tweak in the actual application process.
Okay.
Because
You're the lawyer, whatever you think.
because I'm thinking just flowing through the process that if someone submits an unsolicited proposal for something that nobody had thought of, but then all of a sudden the commission says, this is a great idea. We really want to, get into this.
Yeah.
Then it may be that that's the time that we say, it's a proposed project, but it's after the application comes in. So I wouldn't want this definition to prevent someone from submitting an unsolicited proposal for something that's not quantified in the definition.
However you think lawfully,
Okay,
we need to
Just tweak it a
attain
little
this,
bit.
just to make sure that, again, we're protecting the city and the residents.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and Madam Mayor, just so everyone's aware, so based on how it goes tonight as far as making these modifications,
Mhm.
it would then go to our city attorney to go through the entire document to make sure that all of this is sufficient
That-
and
What we're
doesn't
asking.
conflict with, yeah,
That's what we're asking.
so.
Mr.
Okay.
Segridge?
Oh, can I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It
So-
wasn't
oh,
related to
wait,
this.
Oh.
She's not done.
So the kind of issue came up that with the casino complex, we had an event company looking to submit an unsolicited proposal for it. And was trying to figure out, would that qualify to go through this process? They were looking to do basically a lease or a revenue share kind of project. Would that fall into this?
I don't think
by
that's
definition.
exactly- I mean, that would be a straight up lease, or you tell me.
Well, historically in the past, we've gone out we did the ITN process to go out to find folks to lease or take over the empty casino space. So I would say if someone now says, hey, we're proposing to lease this, I think you would treat it as an unsolicited proposal.
So they would have to pay the $25,000 just to, so this was the very small unsolicited kind of project that I was concerned about with the application fee. And so maybe we can look at the definition so that we could accept some of those smaller things, but
I'm not comfortable with that for a number of reasons. I mean, if a group wants to come to us with a proposal for the casino, which is a fairly wide, I mean, it would be a restaurant, it would be a fairly big proposal. Again, I think part of this is to have a complete application and also to show that they have some,
Backing, financial backing.
yeah, some teeth in the game.
Yeah, I
Some-
agree.
Something in the game.
I agree.
So, thank you. Okay, so in terms of adding commission, we're gonna do that. Mr. McFoy?
And then, yeah.
I'm sorry,
not
Mr. Leg is not done yet.
Okay, and then on page, for you, it'll be page 7 in the book. Under. At the very top, opportunities that are exclusive and private entities are encouraged to submit proposals they believe are consistent with the city's goals. I didn't like that
Strategic.
language. I asked for according to strategic plan. I mean, goals, that doesn't make,
Well, I had, if I had the same question, and
we have a strategic
you
plan we
said
should be working
strategic
by.
plan, so
If we could change the goals to strategic plan was my, yeah.
any objection? Any objection?
What does?
We
Oh.
have, this is William Waters, Junior Sustainability Director. We have probably about 400 goals in our comprehensive plan. So I
Oh,
would
it's
hope
not
that you would
just the
encourage that, include comprehensive plan and strategic plan, not just
Okay.
strategic
Okay.
plan.
Okay,
So comp and strategic, any
Yeah.
objections? You okay with that, Mr. Segridge? Mr.
Thank you.
McVoy, are you okay with that?
Yep,
and then.
Yes, this is yes, okay,
Yes. And then
yes, that was a yes.
thank you.
4 more lines down. Additionally, the proposer can structure its role on the proposed project in a variety of ways, from designing the facility. I would like to add something that the city has final approval of the designs,
Well, we would.
but it doesn't say it. Again, I'm trying not to be vague for somebody who's coming in and spending all this money.
Isn't it,
Christie?
Madam Mayor, I can tell you,
Go ahead.
as part of the statute, the commission has to approve the design.
And that's in the statute
Yes, it
protecting.
is. Yep.
Okay. I'm glad I'm asking all these questions for the
Yep.
record. And then my next one, I promise it's not horribly long.
take your time, well, she had a one-on-one with.
I did, but he wouldn't make the changes until I had consensus. So page 13. Above where it says, so it says only unsolicited proposals apparently complying with these guidelines. What does that even mean? Apparently complying. I don't like that. I'm not happy with apparently. I would think that we would strike
Okay.
apparently and say
Thank you.
compliant.
Do you want to strike it? Strike the word?
Unless there was a reason why.
Yeah, I mean,
It
why
was
is it there?
used. Are you married to apparently?
I am not.
Thank you. Apparently is divorced. Page 14, under competitive bidding. I think the order, instead of it being ABC, I think the second one, so A should be to proceed to the detailed stage of review with one of the original unsolicited proposals. B, to proceed to the detailed
Folks.
stage, and then D, not to proceed any further. I don't think A should be not to proceed. I think it's numbered or lettered wrong. So I was thinking it would, instead of ABC, it would be DAB, and then just read.
Wait, there's a D?
Yeah, there's.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
here we go.
Yeah. So it would be DABC. If you write it the right way, because right now it says, after the public notification and bidding period expired, the city may determine not to proceed with anything
Right.
or to proceed. And I'm like, why don't we start with the positive first? And then if all else fails, we're just not going to accept any of the proposals. It just didn't flow.
Distinction without a
So
difference, in
I'm
my
sorry.
opinion.
Proceed, not proceed.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be
So-
DABC, it would be BCDA.
DABC.
No, not.
No.
A would be last.
A would be last.
Right.
That's that's not what you're saying.
It's B, it would be D now.
DBCA.
Right. So
Thank you.
to proceed further would be D.
Not
just
to
reverse it.
proceed.
Correct.
I got
That's
it.
fine.
Got it?
Doesn't matter, sure.
I'm
BCDA.
sorry. This policy's never been written. I'm being a little anal.
I think you should be very anal. I
That's
just
fine,
wanted
go
to
ahead.
make sure I understood. It's really distracting when you guys are talking in here.
Yeah, please don't.
I'm sorry, the teacher in me's coming out. It's extremely distracting. I'm
She's
sure
so
the
close
people
to
around you
teaching
are a
season
little
being over.
distracted too.
Just to confirm,
What's,
so we're all on the same page.
we're doing
DBCA or BCDA?
D.
D is in Delta.
Because you said
BC.
something different. So I just wanted to make sure.
DBCA.
Delta, Bravo.
DBCA.
Okay.
You
What's
want,
next, Ms. Malika?
Page 18. I'm sorry, I'm almost done. In this long litany of. So it says the detailed proposal shall also identify to the bidder, yada, yada, yada,
What
yada.
number?
After 23 or after 26, I don't care where it goes. I would like to see a project total job creation and construction during construction and after. There's no quantification of the job creation that these projects could possibly bring during construction and after, and I think that's important for the public to know. If we could add that under 27, that would be great. Thoughts?
I don't think there's any problem with that. And it's a pretty standard thing. They do that. They put that in.
Yeah,
so-
but it wasn't as part of
Right.
our requirement.
So can we add that consensus, add that?
I was just gonna suggest have it be like positive socioeconomic impact. That way it's just not limited to job creation.
We have to monetize it.
Yeah.
Yes. I love
I
that.
think-
Yeah.
Normally it is, they do mention specifically how many jobs they anticipate.
but I like how it's broken
Creative.
down versus construction versus
and after.
post-construction,
Right.
because
So-
if you need 500 people to build whatever it is, but only 7 are employed,
Right.
and you say we are making 507 jobs, well,
No, I agree.
yeah, for a year.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're gonna add somewhere.
Positive
Number of
socioeconomic
job creations
job
during
creation.
and post.
Marriott with Mr. Anthony.
Mr. McBoy, you okay with that?
The clarification on whether the jobs are in progress versus
Well, they're
long-term.
not mentioned at all right now, but she's asking for mention of job created during and post construction.
Sure.
Okay, so
Thank you for
You got
entertaining that. And then between page 20 and 21. The list of how the process is going to work
interim agreements.
under above interim agreements. I think there's no mentioning of community meeting and input. And to me, that should be step one, and it's not listed. So I don't know if we can get clarification from Mr. Brown or
Was
the
it
city attorney,
anticipated to have it?
but I think it's important before we
Yeah,
can
no,
get into
That's
agreements.
fine.
21.
Page 20 and 21.
I mean, there has to be.
Right, but it's not listed.
Oh, okay.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Anthony?
Community input statutorily required.
I'm sorry?
So
Yeah,
It's statutorily required, so it should definitely be in.
so add that steps, public meeting.
So I guess my question would be where, and I did read through
Where in the
Commissioner
process?
McVoy's comments, and some of that had to do with the community input
Mhm.
and like a presentation and all that. So the question is, where would you guys like to see that in the process?
Well, I would think it would be before the agreements are signed or
Oh.
brought forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is it didn't mention it before the interim agreement. So wherever,
Sometime after the completed application is submitted, but prior to any commission action. How's that?
If I could
Boy,
comment some, I
Go ahead. What's your feeling?
For those of you who are looking at the electronic backup, there is a flow
saw it.
chart
None of us,
included. Well,
we're all looking at paper.
I don't know whether the paper was updated or not. I assume that it was, but I don't know one way or the other. I have no way of knowing that from Wisconsin. Is there any way, Jamie, that you could pull up the flow chart? Because it addresses a number of these concerns that,
Okay, but that was submitted after Friday? It's submitted after Friday. We're not considering it.
with all due respect,
that was my last comment.
if I could comment a little bit, if that would be all right.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, we have voted.
What's that?
We have voted on the submissions that you made.
Okay, but I hope that we have not voted on removing 1/5 of the community's representation of ideas. And perhaps I would be allowed to speak to them a little bit. I put a lot of thought into this. I
Well-
just was very involved at a county level at a multi-$100 million unsolicited proposal process that ran into many similar concerns that we're trying to address here. And I found out that that agency had also worked up their own process to supplement the state one. And it was quite similar to what I had presented and given to Jamie. That is independent evolution, happened to come similar, but they were addressing similar things. And I think it might be appropriate to at least consider some of the ideas, even if you didn't have a chance to read through them. I think this is a big enough issue, and it's very clear that unsolicited proposals and P3s are going to be coming faster and furious. And
That's
the
why we're doing it.
stronger a process we have, the better off our residents are protected, which to me it's a public-private partnership. And it was already raised earlier, who is the public? Well, the public is the whole community. And that's why I built in 2 different places for public presentations. One very early on, where both the private proposer and the city staff.
Okay, I'm going to stop
Do a
you and just say, so what you're proposing is to have more than one public meeting? One early on and one later on.
Yes, and I think one of the things that I think many people in the community.
All right, Mr. McFly, I'm going to stop you for a second. Madam Attorney,
Yes, Madam Mayor.
what does the statute call for in terms of public meetings? Do you know that?
Well, in terms of the statute, really, if it's an unsolicited proposal, it's the 2-step process that like we did with the Wimoda parking garage, where you do an initial determination as to whether or not there's the best interests, obtain the public comment at that meeting, and then you have a second meeting where you say, yes, move forward. Then it goes into sort of the starting to draft agreement stages. And then every time you have an agreement that's drafted, then you come back. But in terms of the statute requiring other like public charrettes or a town hall meeting, that's not required in the statute. It's specifically towards the public meetings before the governing body.
Okay.
So the city's LDR process has that somewhat built in, but that's usually once you've already got some type of agreement and they're moving towards development.
Okay. Mr. Segrich, you have a quizzical look on your face. Okay. So we're interested in having more public comment, and I agree with Mr.
Absolutely.
McCoy, and I agree with, that's not even, that's a non-issue. So. One-
And I think the important part is it takes a while for the public to become aware of things.
Right,
And
that's why we're talking about, I don't want to cut you off, but we have a lot on this agenda
well, you've
tonight.
cut me off 3 times.
McCoy,
So if you
We're
don't want
talking
to,
about, Mr. McCoy, we're talking about, as you're requesting, and we all agree, is to have public meetings set in at least 2, and not public meetings in front of us with 3-minute comments, but actually meetings, neighborhood meetings, stakeholder meetings.
no, that isn't what I was suggesting at all.
Well, I think again, we have, consensus up here to do that. And one before there's one public meeting after the submittal has been done, but prior to any commission action. And then one at some cogent point later in the process that will, every process is gonna be different, so we'll have to, but have 2 neighborhood.
Can we put
stakeholders.
minimum of 2?
Minimum of 2, absolutely.
Because
We can always have more.
community meetings, I think that we need to make sure. I don't know if I'm talking about the same kind of meetings, because it sounds like he has a different idea, but community input meetings.
Mhm.
And
Not at a regular,
minimum of 2 and clearly no maximum.
Right.
Whatever we need.
and not at a regularly scheduled commission meeting.
No.
Right. Okay,
And not necessarily here.
exactly, right. Anything else, Mr. McBoy?
I would suggest for the first one that.
Okay, no, we're not gonna
I-
go into details, Mr. McBoy. We're gonna put in general here that there's gonna be.
For
2
not wanting to interrupt, you've done it now 4 times.
Mr. McBoy, I'm trying to get this meeting going along.
And I'm trying to assure that there's some good governance, that we put some thought
Yes, and I know
into
you
the
are the only
process.
person up here that's interested in that, but
Yeah,
um,
Well,
we are gonna
um,
forward as.
when you ram a
Mr.
process
McBoy,
through,
Please. We have now agreement up here that there will be at a minimum of 2 public hearings, input from the neighbors, from the community. We can get to more particulars about that as each project comes up. Everyone's gonna be different. Ms. May?
Just when we have the final policy in front of us, can we have a final flow chart? Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
I like a visual. I need to see it.
So just so we're clear.
Yep.
There would be an initial presentation to the commission.
Correct.
Following that, there would be 2 additional community meetings, whether those.
Well,
are
one
direct
right
or how
immediately
they-
after that, yeah.
So are we doing an additional 2 meetings,
No.
additional 2 community meetings, or the first meeting is in front of all of you? Correct?
No, well, where it's proposed, where it's presented, I think
Mhm.
would be either one of our special meetings.
Yep.
Probably, because it takes time. But I don't think that's really enough what we're talking about. We're talking about neighborhood meetings, community meetings out in the community for people to come to.
Correct. So-
One after the proposal has been submitted.
Okay.
And then one later on in the process where we have a little more meat to talk about.
Yeah, they can talk about the
Like design,
design and,
Right.
So
you know.
community input.
and I think they
community
have, like W Moda has to, depending on
Right.
where they're building, they have to do one of those with all of the
And we have a
neighbors.
requirement for developments to do that anyway.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, because that falls under the LDR process. That's what I'm trying to make sure we're
Right.
saying this correctly. So they
Are
would
we
do an initial-
conflicting with the LDR process?
No, but I would like clarification that the required developers meeting with the neighborhood would qualify potentially as one of the required meetings that you're asking for.
So,
Because it's at the developer or proposal's responsibility. Staff is not involved,
right,
electeds are not involved. It is
Right.
for that proposer, present their ideas and concepts to the community, get community input.
Yep.
Okay.
And they have to give you proof that they've done that, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
So since that falls under the LDR process, and that's
Mhm.
required as part of that,
it's gonna,
we would then
we
be
don't-
talking about an initial presentation to all of you.
Yeah.
In like a special meeting or
Mhm.
something like this. And then one additional meeting after that to the community.
not a digital meeting, a community meeting out in the
Correct.
community
In the community, correct?
Right.
It'd be a separate meeting,
that the
then-
developer pays for and makes the arrangement.
correct?
Right.
So those are the 2. Okay,
Okay,
initial
But let's
two.
speak, but what I heard earlier was that you want at least 2 meetings. Not every development project has a requirement for a developer meeting before it goes to planning and zoning board or preservation board or onto the commission. There could be smaller, as Commissioner Sedgwick brought up, smaller
Okay,
E3 unsolicited proposals that don't have that requirement for the developers meeting.
So it should be in this if it's a triple P project. So we should add the language. Yeah. Yeah, minimum,
Community engagement, community input, whatever.
minimum. Okay.
If-
And I'll work with Jamie to figure out where we can give you some kind of window of when that is appropriate to happen, depending on what we can figure out would be the key milestones, I guess is the word.
Well, yeah.
If I might comment on this idea of, yes?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that I think we've heard about a couple different times, both from different organizations and from the presentation that was brought in at a different workshop, is it is difficult, but an important goal of P3s that the risks, the profits, the benefits be shared pretty equally between the public and the private sector. And it's also pointed out that that sounds good. It's difficult to assure in advance that it's in fact likely to happen. And one of the suggestions that I had for the initial public meeting is that it be a parallel structure to the commission, open to the public, open for comment, that the developer gets a set amount of time, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever one decides is reasonable, to present from the private perspective, and then to balance that for the public and for the commission, that staff presents what it looks like from the public side. What are the risks, an assessment of how it's shared, benefits, how they're shared, and that be part of the initial informing the public, and both sides get to present, so that there's some way of getting some idea that people aren't just offering an opinion based on only what the developer has proposed, but that actually staff
Understood.
have done some analysis and said,
okay,
okay,
I
as far as we could.
I'm taking it to the commission now. Commission, your response to that suggestion. Mr. May, I'm sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm trying to remember the ordinance or the state statute. The state statute does say that it would behoove the city to hire a consultant to represent our interests and make sure that all of the risk is shared equally, because remember, we were talking about this whole idea being shared risk. And if that's what Commissioner McVoy is referring to, where our representative would assure or let the public know our risk and the risk the city's taking, I don't have a problem necessarily with that. Because I believe that that's built into the statute. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So I believe that's already in there, Mr. McVoy, and I agree with you that not only should the risks be shared with us, I do agree that it should be shared publicly. It doesn't necessarily have to be at an open forum, but there should be, if it's a project we're talking about doing and we're going through, there should be like a page on our website that shows the risks and it shows the things to make sure that this is a transparent process. So I don't have a problem with that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sigrid?
I think that's incorporated in the spirit of what this is. I don't think we should dive so deeply into like codifying the actual structure of our meeting, because these projects are going to vary wildly. And it could be a third-party expert, it could be a staff expert, it could be who knows. But bottom line is we are going to want to hear from somebody, and that's just inherent in the fact that we're doing this analysis. They're paying for this analysis. We're going to be presented with this analysis, but what actual form that takes, I think would be a mistake to try to imagine all the possible forms and get that into code. We're going to have a meeting on it. Obviously, staff or somebody is going to give us their expert opinion.
As long as we get the information.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel that. I agree. And the statute calls for it, so I agree with that. Okay, Mr. Zegridge.
Sorry, I'll try to keep it brief. I will tell you what page. So on page 3, and just follow along, under the acknowledgement of receipt, it says that we shall publish, which to me means that for each of these received, we are going to be publishing them as the acknowledgement for receipt.
Yep.
Going further into it, on page 14, because we published the acknowledgement of receipt, it goes into section 4, the competitive bidding process, where we are requiring the original proposer to resubmit a bid and pay an additional $5,000 on top of their $25,000 application fee. My concern here is now that we've taken an unsolicited proposal and then demanded that they go back in a bid format, it is no longer an unsolicited proposal, it's a response. And that would take it out of the state statute, and they would no longer be responsible to have to pay for all of the evaluation. And I'd like the attorney's opinion on that.
Have you had a chance to ask her that that's kind of a pop quiz. Are you prepared to answer that question? It's a little convoluted.
So let me make sure I'm following the question. So if someone submits an unsolicited proposal and the city commission reviews it, directs staff to then do a solicitation for the theme of that unsolicited proposal, the person that, or the entity that submitted the unsolicited proposal would now have to pay a second fee to participate in the competitive solicitation.
That's how the statute's written, and by saying shall, it means all unsolicited proposals have to go through that solicitation process.
Right. So if you submit an unsolicited proposal, you have to pay $30,000 versus if you just sit back and wait till the city solicits for a proposal, then you only have to pay $5,000.
No, what the
Is that what you're saying? So
no,
we can't-
what is written here is if you submit an unsolicited proposal, you pay a $25,000 application fee, and the city shall go into the acknowledgement of receipt process, which drops us in the competitive bidding process. And in the competitive bidding process, it says the initial proposal shall submit a bid. So my concern is that we basically.
You're opening it up. We're opening it up to other bids.
We are opening up to other bids, but the original proposer has to also bid. And at that point, we're requiring an extra fee. They are now a bidder.
I was gonna say it's only $5,000 more.
No, I'm not worried about the 5,000. I'm worried about if this is a $150 million project, and to actually evaluate it, it's going to cost $300,000 of city time. Them no longer being an unsolicited proposal at that point, we're stuck just holding on to our $30,000 fee. And that's not going to cover the cost.
Is that accurate?
Are you thinking we should do a percent of the?
It's not about the fee. It's about forcing the unsolicited proposal to come back and submit a second bid versus their original proposal as part of the process. I'm asking if that drops them out of the state statute. And
If
I
might
don't
comment
need
on
an
it.
answer now. I think it's just something we need to consider and be careful about that, because my concern is that we get the amount of money that we need to look at some of these things, and they're going to be large. So it's a concern, and we can go into more detail.
Okay, well, I just, Madam Mayor, if I may, just
Sure.
a clarification. So we have the state statute, right,
Mhm.
on P3s, and what is being proposed is a policy to sort of fill the implementation of the statute's gaps. So with the proposed policy, there's a provision in there that even with an unsolicited proposal, if we have to spend more than $25,000 of staff time to analyze it, we can go back to the unsolicited proposer and say, this is going to cost us a lot more. We need you to pay more. I'm not sure, but I would imagine that then if we go into the solicited proposal area, if the city wants to, it could always go to the people that respond to the solicitation and say, we need more money to evaluate this process. You either pay up or you're out of the process.
And that's part of the statute.
Well,
But-
that's not part of the statute,
No.
but
I'll get you in a
this-
second, Mr. McVoy.
this policy, the way it's drafted, is to allow the city to go back to whether it's an unsolicited proposal or a solicited one to ask for more money.
Here's a question I have about that particular thing. It says, the city determines here and further considering any unsolicited proposal, they shall publish an acknowledgement and invite competing bids during do we have, because I thought there was an option, Mr. Brown.
Yeah,
I
so
thought there was an
this
option
is,
of like,
yeah,
we
so
like
this
this
is
one so
under,
much, we're not gonna,
yeah, so this is under section
That's
4,
the-
under
okay,
competitive bid.
okay.
I don't know.
So-
what-
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Alright.
so, but you do have the option to not
Okay.
go out for.
Okay,
competitive
Mr.
process.
McCoy?
Yeah, my question was, my understanding of the scheme was under the state statutes and under whatever rules we come up with, this is how we deal with an unsolicited proposal.
Oh.
But we, as as future commissions, this commission want to reserve the option that, okay, this is kind of a cool idea. It might be something general topic we're interested in, but we would like to put this out for bid.
Right.
And my question is, wouldn't we then just go into our normal RFP process and say, thank you for your proposal, the unsolicited one, but we're not going to address that. We are going to issue an RFP, which we will spec out what it looks like, and anybody is welcome to apply for it. A question I would have for the attorney is, you certainly, if you do put it out for a general RFP, you can't say that one bidder has to pay a fee, but the others don't have to pay a fee. And I'm not sure that we can legally, at least I've never heard of having to pay a fee to respond to an RFP. Maybe there is, but it would certainly have to be even across everybody who bid,
Okay,
would it
she's
not?
Mayor, if I
forming
may.
her answer.
Yeah. So Madam Mayor, so a couple thoughts. You're correct in that if we decide to go the competitive solicitation process, we have to treat everybody the same and fairly. So if the city's going to charge a fee, which it absolutely can do, and oftentimes we do in construction bidding, you require a bid bond, and that's to ensure that if you select that bid, that they can follow through with signing the contract, providing a bond, construction bond, and insurance. If they don't, you keep their bid bond. So it's really no different than a bid bond asking people to put up money for an RFP process. So you can do it, but you're absolutely right. Got to treat everybody the same.
Right.
But we
Seems
would
good.
we have to return the money if it,
If the way a bid bond usually works is if you don't accept their bid, you don't award it to them, their bid bond goes back to them.
okay, but this would be if, let's say we were doing a project and we had to put it out, and then we've got 5 other people who paid $30,000 and said, no, I want to do this with that space that you got the unsolicited proposal for. And we had to spend city time and money and staff time to go and look at those other 5 things. And we pick one, we don't pay the 30 grand back to the ones we already did the work.
Right. In your scenario, it's not a bid bond. It's more of a bond to evaluate their proposal based on the overall scope.
But
of
it
the
wouldn't be a
art.
bond anyway, it'd be a fee.
Correct.
we're not returning
Yes, absolutely. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it would be applied evenly to anybody who bid. Basically, my understanding is that if a commission were to say, all right, we've received an unsolicited proposal, we're not interested in going forward as an unsolicited proposal, but we are interested in doing something possibly related, possibly very similar, possibly somewhat different, but we want to do that through an RFP, it really, the whole unsolicited process drops out of the picture, and you do however you want to do that RFP, which might include an analysis fee. Is that correct understanding, Madam
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Segrich?
I just wanted just a little bit of clarity when we get on page 15 to stage 5, the detailed evaluation. There's an additional $30,000 fee. So basically moving forward through the process, they're going to be paying at least $60,000, correct? Second paragraph, middle sentence.
Which page?
Page 15.
15. Under detailed stage evaluation and interviews with bidders.
What if we don't put an actual amount there?
Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but my main question was going to be, because I had just kind of looked at what some other cities had used as far as a fee. I wasn't sure if you guys are all comfortable with that fee. There are some that are more, there are some that are less. I just kind of put 25,000 in there as a placeholder, and then an extra 5 if you guys wanted to entertain putting it out for a competitive process. So I guess the first question would be, are you guys comfortable with that amount? Or would you want to entertain a different amount?
Could you explain your reasoning behind choosing that exact number? Which, I mean,
Looking at multiple other cities that have already put together their policies, and they range from a little bit less than this to a lot more than this. So I was trying to figure an average in the middle. of
Well,
what
could
would
you
be
just hit on-
realistic.
Could you just hit on which departments are gonna have to touch this, just to do it, even a 30,000 foot elevation? And say yes or
depends
no?
on the
It
project.
would depend on what the project
That's why
is,
it's so
but
hard.
obviously community sustainability would have a large part in that. Usually public works, because there's probably going to be some type of public right of way involved in that as well. Depending on what we're talking about and how far we want to get into it at the beginning, you would also have utilities involved, both water, sewer, and electric.
So staff time.
Legal at some point in time, depending on how far we.
I'm
we go
okay with
into
the
that.
30,000. To me, it's a business
I
right
have no
off.
problem with it. I mean,
I-
are you
skin in
suggesting
the
we go
game.
higher?
No, again, I wanted to have that conversation.
But
with all
that's
of you.
separate from the second $30,000 that Mr. Sigrid just talked.
Can we, sorry. I was just gonna say, what if we just put a detailed proposed application fee?
Because the fee changes on our fee schedule every year anyway. We could change it.
We could
Sure.
change
And
We could change it.
can
We
move
could
the
just
actual
put the fee,
amounts.
we could put the
Application
whole
fee as
thing in
determined
the
by the
fee
city.
schedule.
If we're gonna have the upfront fee, I would think
Folks,
this
really?
fee, by the time we got there, we've already evaluated the project. Staff's really done some due diligence. At the point we've sent it out for the acknowledgement and getting more potential bids in, we would have an understanding of what that fee should be. I would be more in favor in section 5, having that fee be to be determined
Right.
at time of initial
That's what you
eval.
said, Yeah.
Yep.
And
A
I think,
proposal application fee as determined by the city.
Yeah.
Yep, just
Yeah,
take
so
the
just take out
30,000
of 30 grand.
Mr. McVoy, you okay with taking out the $30,000?
I was going to suggest very similar, because this
Okay.
is an individual RFP process. It really doesn't relate anymore at all to the unsolicited. So each RFP can, it might be a big RFP, it might be a small RFP.
So
I would
you're
think,
okay with taking out the amount?
right.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
and then my
Just one more?
last thing is going back to my earlier comment about the example of somebody doing an unsolicited proposal to lease out or partner with us on the casino pier, a small one. We said that would be considered an unsolicited proposal, should have to go through this. What about when 5013Cs come to us and want to acquire our surplus properties at $0, or somebody wants to come acquire a surplus property from the city? Would that also be considered an unsolicited proposal?
William,
That's-
William Waters again. We made some changes to the way the city can dispose of surplus properties several years ago. And we can't, originally it was only could be done through an RFP or sealed bids. And then we changed it so that we allowed unsolicited proposals from any entity who would like to buy surplus properties. But within that change, if it came in, the buyer or proposed buyer is supposed to pay all fees associated with disposing of the property, and that is written in your code of ordinances.
Mhm.
Appraisals, title searches, and then it's also a caveat that says we cannot net anything less than the market value of the property unless a decision is made by you to take a different amount. There is some little caveats about nonprofits and affordable housing and the CRA getting it first. But all the costs associated with a person or entity getting property from the city are supposed to be covered by that entity. And it appears there's no waiver or variance process of which the city can decide, oh, we're not going to charge that entity those costs that are incurred.
So for something like that, it sounds like we have a well thought out
Yeah.
process to handle that type of unsolicited
Right,
proposal.
this is like a different,
I just
animal
want to
of a
make
different-
sure that
yeah, I
by putting this in, we don't create a inconsistency within our code, so that we might have to add something to our definition
don't think
where it references that ordinance to make sure that it's not included in this.
so we're covered. Are we covered?
I'll look at it again, but it's under the section of disposition of city-owned property
Mhm.
and an unsolicited proposal process, which is called the same thing. I mean, you've got unsolicited proposal, but it's not a P, it's not a
It's not a
P3.
P3.
It's actually a two-party thing.
Right. It's, yeah,
Okay.
okay. That it?
That was it.
All right, so with the changes, we have some public comments,
Just one. for this one.
just one. And the clerk may
I
have
have
one.
one, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Peggy Fisher? There you go.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I just wanted to say thank you for the four of you who are sitting here for reviewing all this, getting your comments to the city manager or assistant city manager in the deadline provided. That's what's expected of you unless you're dead, I guess. And it's not the first time, unfortunately, that our commissioner on Zoom has missed deadlines and wanted to be accepted. And I just appreciate the vote that you all say, this is our standard and this is what we're going to abide by.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you have a public comment?
Yes, excuse me, I have one. Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. I am happy that the city has finally engaged on setting up a PPP procedure and fee. I'm also happy to see a substantial fee of $25,000, which corresponds with the kinds of fees other municipalities in Palm Beach County charge. While I do not agree with Commissioner McVoy on very many issues, I am glad he pushed the commission to discuss getting a procedure, policy, and fee in place for P3s. There is no reason for our city to not charge a fee like other municipalities do, and the fees under the P3 statute have to be repaid at closing, so it's not the same protection.
Thank you. That's it?
Well, for this item, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so has anyone made notes on the changes that we came about? I hope some should.
I made notes on all the changes.
Okay,
What I'll
good.
do is there was a few that I'll get with William on just to make sure that we're all good.
Huh?
And then it'll go
With
to
the
the
city
city attorney to get that final stamp of approval. And
All
then we'll
right.
get it on a future agenda for the final approval from. August.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve with the changes?
Motion to approve with the changes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
I,
passes.
no, I oppose,
Well, are you voting yes or no on this motion?
I'm voting no on the
Okay,
motion.
thank you. So it passes 4-1. Next up, we have discuss and provide formal direction on vacation and short-term rentals within the city of Lake Worth Beach. What?
Nothing.
Oh,
It's not my job.
Stay in your lane, man. I don't know what you're muttering, but it's okay. So do we have staff? I mean, what do we want to do? How do you want to do it?
This is probably our seventh round of looking at this. And fundamentally it comes down to, are we gonna allow them or are we not? I mean, face the consequences one way or the other.
Right. And my understanding from what I've been on all these meetings and discussions that we've had is that, we have things in the ordinances that really are unenforced. The 60-day max minimum rental. We have on May 20 Tuesday, we got from Ms. Linehan, our attorney, things we can and cannot do. And the list of things that we can and cannot do is quite short. We cannot do much. The only thing, and I'm going to read for the public so that you have this, the regulations that have been determined to be allowed as regulations are regulations setting maximum occupancy limits, but I believe that's covered by the housing code, the building code.
It is covered by the housing code and in terms of occupants in bedrooms. However, in many vacation rentals, there are rooms that do not qualify as bedrooms that have beds in them. And I've got two staff who are at the Florida Association of Business Tax Receipts who are sending me all kinds of information today. There are some cities that do inspections, but some of the inspections, I don't know whether we can do or not, because you have inspections that are triggered by the building code and the building official can do it. But there are other ones that can be triggered by the fire marshal or another health department entity. And there are some cities who had regulations related to inspections of vacation rentals long before the preemptions were put in place. So I think some of the inspections that other places are doing we don't have the privy or the ability to do.
And
And you also run the risk that a lot of the vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach are seasonal in terms that people live in the house. It's their primary residence and they go somewhere for a while and then lease it out under a short-term rental provision. And we've already had a couple of challenges that we really shouldn't be inspecting private residences. So I don't think we're gonna be, we can write it in the business license it's issued, this bedroom according to our records, this residence has 3 bedrooms, they're based on this size, and so
6 people.
there's 6 people. But we're not gonna necessarily be able to verify that.
Because we can't, because my understanding is that we can't even do inside inspections in the normal course of code enforcement at this point.
Well, we never could do interior inspections on general courses of code enforcement. We do have an interior inspection provision that is part of our use and occupancy component of our business license, but we have been challenged, not legally, but it's been intimated that we shouldn't be doing residential inspections. Commercials, since it's open to the public, we
Right.
do in tandem, not at the same time, with the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue inspections that happen every year.
So we can't go in and say if they have smoke detectors or the plumbing's working, we cannot do that.
I do not believe we can.
That was, okay, that's.
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes,
can maybe
please.
clarify. So some of the preemption that came down recently of residential tenancies have sort of caused a, concern about whether for, and I'm talking about non-vacation rentals, regular like rentals that are authorized in the city right now, there's a concern that the way that that preemption was written so broadly that for your residential use and occupancy license, that we can no longer do inspections of those. Now, as you know, it doesn't prevent you from, if given certain circumstances, you could always go for an administrative warrant, separate issue, but you still have a way to do it legally.
On non-resident property.
Right. The question that comes up with vacation rentals is, can you treat them differently than your regular residential and inspect them? And so I think that's where the concern is, just like the concern of the preemption that came up with the landlord tenant issue.
And the answer is no, correct?
On a general basis, I would say yes. Conservatively, you
Yeah.
should not
Correct, the
inspect
answer is no.
residential, tenancies, whether short-term rentals or not.
So essentially,
But that doesn't prevent you from having requirements for them.
for any rental.
Correct.
I mean, essentially, we have to treat rentals as rentals. It doesn't matter whether they're short-term or long-term.
Correct.
Mr. Segret, your light's been on for a while.
I was just going to make a suggestion that after we hear from staff, maybe we could hear public comment before we all discuss, because I think there's a lot of them and it might be useful to hear them.
Sure.
I second that. I was gonna
That's
suggest
fine.
that.
No, there are a lot of comments. Okay, Mr. McBoy, quickly, I have your light is, your hand is up.
It is. I had several questions. One is a question for the attorney, and then I have another staff question. The attorney question is, I'm guessing that there isn't a conflict of interest if an elected official owns this short-term rental to vote on this, based on the argument that if they only own one and there's a large class of them, 400, whatever, there's not a significant, I forget the legal term, but not a significant benefit. Am I correct on that? So that so we know that we're okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yep.
may I respond? Correct. The ethics issue, they prevent you from voting on something that will be to your special benefit or gain. But what ethics look at is the class of the size that
Okay.
you're looking at. And in this case, I think based on the agenda memo that staff came up, we know about hundreds of vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. So I think you would have to conclude the class size is so big that there's not going to be an ethics issue should anyone have a vacation rental that's voting on this issue.
And just for the
That
record.
was my guess, but I wanted to make sure we all understood. I
Um,
do have some other questions that I wasn't quite done, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Yeah.
A question for staff. I think this is probably more for William, but I'm not sure. Where do bed taxes from short-term rentals, if there are any, go? Do they go to the city? Do they go to some other entity? And are there any other taxes, and where do they go? I think it's important for us to understand that.
Yes.
Could be
Uh,
challenged.
bed taxes are charged
but
very
it's
similar to hotel and
considered
motel. That is collected to the visitors and tourism entity of the county. They do distribute parts of those monies to activities within the city, such as the Cultural Council, which has awarded grants to various nonprofits in the city over the years. But no money from the bed tax comes directly to the city. And I do not believe we legally can adopt a bed tax. There are some communities that have adopted special tourism or resort type sales tax components, which we might be able to do. And vacation rentals do pay a sales tax. We've never looked at adopting our own sales tax provision. I believe South Beach has one, like it's 0.5%. And there are some that in restaurants, they pay 1 or thereabouts. We'd have to do an equity study to figure out whether we could actually do that or not. And then they do pay sales tax, which we do get a proportionate share from the state of that, which is based on a whole number of factors, which maybe the finance department, I think I saw the finance director here somewhere. I might be able to tell you what that formula is, because it seems to be somewhat based on area and population. And sadly, our population numbers from our last census and the census before that didn't seem overly accurate. No aspersions on anybody, but we seem to be a much larger city than we actually are documented to be.
And we have to hit 50 to become a large city that we can.
And
get the
I'm
money
praying
to.
that we're gonna make it by 2030, or I'm gonna have to resign.
Yeah, really?
Because I told you we were gonna make it by 2020 and we didn't.
But 50 is the number that makes us be able to apply directly for
It
money.
takes us out of the agrarian,
Right.
rural, urbanized area. We're in this middle ground, which is in the no man's world. We need to be
Okay.
50,000 people to be considered statistical standard statistical metropolitan area.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy, you have another question?
I do have another one, but I'd like to make it before we vote, but I can wait and defer to others.
Okay. Mr. Segrich's line. He's turned out his light.
I was just going to say on the tax, I believe the population size had to be at a certain date,
Well,
and we missed that.
well, no, it was the census.
No, there's a historical date on it for
well-
specifically to charge an extra tourism sales tax.
Oh, no, we're talking about there's something different. Okay. We'll look into it. Staff will look into it. Okay, are these the public comments for this? Okay. Yeah, please.
Sorry. I just have a question. If basically what we would be saying here possibly is that we treat a short-term rental just like any other rental. A rental is a rental is a rental, whether you stay for 2 days or 18 years. Am I correct?
Yes, because you don't want to treat them any differently than a regular rental. But at the same time, you can impose reasonable restrictions that are consistent with whatever zoning district they're in, that they would have to comply with in terms of parking. Obviously, you've got your noise ordinances and things like that. This is not an issue that's been flushed out a lot. And Elizabeth's memo was really just pointing out the regulations that courts have upheld, that have been challenged and upheld. There's other regulations that a lot of cities have put into place that they just haven't been challenged.
But a
So-
regular rental has all of those issues as well. I mean, I could not own my home. I could rent a home and I could have 5 kids that all have cars and, you know, and it'd be all on the street up and up and everything's fine versus a family of 5 who rented 1 car at the airport and came and visited Lake Worth Beach for a week. So I just think differentiating between a 2-day and a longer rental gets a little bit hairy.
Right.
And you're right. I think it becomes like a numbers game, because what may be a typical sort of long-term residential use where you have 5 or 6 cars at your place because you've got 5 or 6 kids that are driving, versus a vacation rental that gets rented out by 20 or 30 people every other week. And now they've got 15 or 20 cars.
I hear what you're saying, but
Yes.
I think that was an original issue with short-term rentals, and I believe that and I don't have one, so anybody that does can correct me when they speak. But I believe that idea of I'm a senior, I just graduated, I'm going to get this house and we're going to trash it, is kind of been handled by the platforms. themselves. That's my understanding, is that through Airbnb or whatever the platforms are, that initial wonderful teenage dream has been crushed. Sorry.
Yes. Motel 6, go ahead.
I think
And
I
I
just
just-
a little bit too much of my story.
For the record, I just want to say I do have, I own a condo down on South Lakeside Drive. Years ago, I did it as a short-term rental. Then during COVID, I did it in Finders, which was nurses. I had long-term nurses stay for a few months. It is now a long-term. She's there until she's not there anymore. So just for the record, I have no personal interest anymore. The Airbnb became a lot of work. Okay, so we do want to hear public comments now? Okay, let's do it. All right, up first, Cheryl Raskin. Followed by Justin Nakamura. There's been a request to take a comfort break, and since we're gonna have a lot of public comments, we're gonna take you can sit down, Ms. Raskin. Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a quick comfort break.
Alfonso is unmuting, Madam Mayor.
Down and stop your conversation so we can get back to the meeting. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it is 7:26 and we are back.
Thank you very much. Public comment, Ms. Raskin.
Good evening, Commission. It's been a few years since then I've
Yeah.
been here visiting you all, and I'm doing much better. Thank you very much. Because
Yeah.
you've been asking those questions, so I'm doing better. Getting along, getting
I'm
strong.
sorry, name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Cheryl Rashkin, 1302 South Palmway. Short-term rentals. We have a plethora of them within our small little area of South Palm, South Lakeside. We understand that they're probably here to stay. And we really don't want that, but maybe if we started treating all rentals as rentals, that would be wonderful. So they need to have a business license. They need to have at minimum the fire inspections that are going on that need to be done with them, the health department if necessary. Those are two things that we'd like to see done. And also do away with the homestead exemption taxes on those residences that are doing so, which would increase the coffers within the city. And I do know that in our neighborhood could be quite a bit of change for the city.
Send me some addresses,
How many would you like?
as many as you've got.
We've got
That's okay.
several.
I've
And
got,
it's also,
I have
if you
people
look,
to do that.
if you look within the report that was attached to that huge document. I actually read through all of it and the graphs are really good. And if you go say, let's pick 18th Avenue South, and that's because I warned them I was going to do this. You'll find 10. Now in 18th Avenue South, there's only 12 homes. So go for it. So that's how I want
Which
to
is
say.
something we have no control over.
I know you don't. I know. But that's one thing you may want to consider when you're putting forth the changes to the ordinance in reference to rentals, that be included. They're all going to be treated the same. And that's what we need to have. If we're going to have them in the city, and I know it's coming to it, and I don't like it, because you can ask one of the commissioners, because I've been hounding that person for a few years in reference to that. But we know it's coming. So just to let you know, we could get those three things included. One is they're all treated the same.
Right.
The homestead taxes are done away with for those residents that are renting out and earning money on it. And they have to pay a business tax license to be in business doing things.
Well, that
So,
would be the rental license.
That'd be the rental. So that would be wonderful.
Thank you. And let me ask Mr. Winters, when you apply for a rental license, do you indicate whether it's going to be short term? Do we have that on there?
Well, as it is right now, we have a little note that says no leases less than 60 days is a note on it. And the vast majority of the vacation rentals that are where I do have a Lakeport Beach business license for
Mhm.
residential. There is a caveat that, and I keep being corrected on it, and is that, and we did propose that the homestead exemption could not be maintained. However, if you live in your property for 6 months and a day, you
Right.
can maintain your business license, your homestead exemption. And then when you're not here, you can rent your property out under our standard rental license, which is 60 days or more. Or as if it is approved, it could be a short-term rental, but you do have to get a BTR and some other things from the county and register. And how the tax assessor may affect that, I don't know. I know I got dunned on my guest house, which is a regular rental that was covered under my homestead exemption, and it's not anymore.
Mine's not.
So the tax collector might say, hey, if you're only here X number of months, we're only going to give you a pro rata share of your homestead exemption, because they are vicious. And I'm from West Palm Beach. They are vicious on trying to catch people not paying, any modicum of property tax that the county doesn't think they should be getting.
Yeah, I have my little ADU behind my house. And when I first bought the house many years ago, I said, it's about 2/3, 1/3. So I only get a homestead exemption on my house, not on the cottage. So thank you.
The only other thing I'd like to ask, and that would go
Right.
back just to staff, and that is when you're putting out these notices, can you not use acronyms? Some of us are old. And,
Sad.
when you see instead of saying short-term rental, you see
STR.
SVT, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not having a cardiac issue. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Justin Nakamura. And after Mr. Nakamura, Jill Gorlock. Name and address
Hello.
first, please.
My name is Justin Nakamura, 914 North B Street. I personally think Airbnbs and short-term rentals bring a lot of business or a lot of money to the local businesses around here. I've had people from all over the world that come and stay at our place, and we have a little welcome booklet that tells, like, Denny's on the beach and the Strip and different areas around here where they can go and enjoy the city.
Get a little closer.
Sorry, I'm a little tall.
She can't hear. You can pick it up. It's not, yeah, there you go.
So basically, the short-term rentals bring a lot of money to local businesses. There's almost more upkeep with the short-term rentals than with the normal long-term rentals, because we turn people a couple times a week, and as soon as something goes wrong, we fix it. We're on it immediately. And as Airbnb has a strict policy for, like, no parties and stuff. And, we also live there upstairs. We live upstairs. We rent the downstairs. So, we don't want anybody partying. You don't want anybody smoking or doing drugs or anything like that. I've personally kicked out several partiers, college kids and stuff. And people come and stay in B&Bs and short-term rentals before they make the choice and pulling the trigger for buying a property around here. It's a lot more of a homey feel. It's a better vibe to go stay in an Airbnb and get the feel of what it would be like to live in the city before you buy a property here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jill Gorlick. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Jill Gorlick. I too am a big fan of VRBO and Airbnb. Oh, 624 North L Street. I have a little bungalow. I agree with the previous gentleman. It does bring a lot of money to the city and businesses. It also brings a lot of acknowledgement, because several people I know that have rented my place never even heard of Lake Worth Beach. When I say it's just south of West Palm, they're excited. And at least two of my short-term renters, one bought a house after they spent some time here, and another one went into a long-term rental as long-term renter. I can't even tell you how many people that I speak to around the country that are like, Lake Worth Beach, where's that? West Coast, East Coast? They don't even know. So I think there's really nothing but good that has come from it. I also don't, some people do, and there's not a problem. I don't do instant booking, Airbnb or VRBO. I want to know who's coming to my place. It's a small bungalow. I don't want 6 people in my small bungalow. I want to know where they're coming from, what they're about. I allow dogs because I'm a dog lover. And sorry for the cat lovers, but I have a dog. So if I'm ever there and he smells a cat, that would be a problem. I just really don't see too many negatives, other than the occasional instances I have heard of, not just here necessarily, wherever, but Airbnb and Vrbo do have some serious rules about that, and they will kick people out. I also have that I don't want anyone under 25 renting. I have several renters that have family nearby, so they come to see them. I've had renters who someone had a very young little girl that needed some major surgery at the hospital nearby. She needed to be here. I really have not come across any negatives personally, so I hope that all remains that way.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Peggy Fisher, and up after her is Cassandra Hathaway.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I don't have an Airbnb. I just have a lot of people coming in and out of rentals on either side of me with multiple cars. But I came to speak because in the last 3 years, since 22, there was a meeting on 5/23/22 where 3 of the commissioners were present, 2/29/23 and 9/23/24. So I am just here to say, and I know Mr. Warder said this is like the 7th time this has been discussed. It's time to make a decision. That's all I'm here to say is, we you know, we can go ahead and schedule a meeting for 26.
Okay.
And we have
we're-
one for
I
25.
think we should, that's a good idea. Let's put it off.
That's my,
This-
it needs to be settled.
Well, this is one of the things that we inherited,
I-
that we needed to get, and we're here tonight.
But
Thank you.
you've had 3 meetings, one.
And we're here tonight. Thank you.
So,
Cassandra Hathaway, followed by Jesse Heligas. Name and address, please.
Cassandra Hathaway, 914 North B Street. And I am actually from Colorado, moved here 6 years ago because I decided to take a vacation to a random place I've never heard of, Lake Worth Beach. And I stayed at an Airbnb right on J Street and I loved it here. It was so cute. I love the eclectic vibe. I was like, I literally got on Zillow while I was out here and I started looking, and 9 months later I bought a house and I love it here. But you know, as I've lived here and gotten to know like the city and the inner workings of things, I've been kind of disappointed, optimistic, but disappointed. Because, you know, first of all, I have been trying to comply with all of your rules, or you guys don't know if they're rules, regulations, what there are. So I've been trying to do my best to stay on good terms, essentially. So I've applied twice for a rental license. I've been denied both times, so my money has been taken. Still don't know what that's about. I didn't even say it was a short-term rental because obviously you guys don't allow that, but so I'm $280 short now and still no license. And to the point someone made before me, so for homestead exemption, I actually, well, like I said, want to be on good terms. So I did reach out to Palm Beach County and they told me that you just have to, you draw out a map of how much of like a percentage of the house that you don't live in. And they like deduct that somehow, do the math. But, and like Justin mentioned before, like you guys were talking about inspections and things like that. Trust me when I say we work our butts off to make sure that that place is in tip-top shape 24/7, because if it's not, we're not going to get booked. Like you got to keep 5 stars and you got to be on it all the time. You want to be peaceful with your neighbors. You want to be everything to be right. So, I mean, if anything, I think that the Airbnbs are probably better in the community than most other neighborhoods. I know my house is probably the best looking on the block, to be honest with you. And it has to be because I want to keep it going. So, but that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Was 914 North B the address that you're waiting for a rental license for?
Yeah.
He's taking copious notes.
Yeah, I do hope that you'll just use the fees I've already paid twice.
Oh, no, we're gonna get you. No. Thank you very much for speaking and thank you for choosing our city. Jesse Hillegas and Charlotte. And after Jesse, Charlotte's got something to say. Vicky, she's mean. Vicky Cerny after, Jesse. Name and address.
All right, Jesse Hillegas, 124 North Ocean Breeze, Lake Worth Beach, Florida. I urge the commission to vote for keeping STRs. Short-term rental. The guests staying there bring much needed business to our town. I have a small 1-bedroom pet-friendly home that I keep for my family that visits. This I rent as a short-term rental to help pay taxes, insurance, and maintenance. All the guests that have stayed here love our town and love being able to bring their pets and have a private, quiet place to relax. This unit will not be turned into a long-term rental. I have 8 long-term rentals, and they will stay long-term rentals. This one's for my family. I am thrilled that the Gulfstream will be opening soon, but not all visitors will want to stay there. Having several choices of places to stay for accommodation will be beneficial for the city. We'll have the Gulfstream, bed and breakfasts, Airbnbs, and guest houses.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, you don't have to read Jesse's comment that she sent in. Vicky.
I know, thank you.
Thank you. Vicky Sirni, is that? Cindy, Sinni.
Yeah, that's my first time here. I've been a property owner in Lake Worth Beach for the last 5 years. We've had a short-term
Your
property.
name and address first, please.
Vicky Sinni,
Yeah.
601 North East Street.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a short-term property in the area and I've had the opportunity to expose so many people to this charming town. From these days, I, as a realtor, have sold over 10 properties in Lake Worth Beach after the guests have stayed on the property. let me see, the guests buy because they're enamored with the location. I've also had guests staying in the town for a short time to see if this is where they'd like to live. We've had over 40% repeat guests yearly, many seasonal. Restaurants, events, activities made these guests fall in love with the small town, feel that this beach town has, as well as benefit from the income produced by them. Exposure to this beautiful town was only possible through their stay. There are so few hotels that guests in the area can go and they're catered to. I'm also dog friendly, so many of the people like to have the yard for the dogs. My neighbors also, when we got the Airbnb, were all invited over the house. They were told it's an Airbnb. They were all able to see the house and they get special promotions for having family members stay at the house when they come. So that's been a big one and it's been used often. Let me see. It's also well kept and probably one of the best kept properties in that neighborhood. As a matter of fact, my neighbors reach out directly. They usually end up meeting the people that are staying there and I've never had a negative response to them on both sides. I believe short-term properties play an integral role in exposing guests to our beautiful town and all it has to offer. That without this would be go unseen. Like I said, as a realtor, many people have never heard of Lake Worth. I deal mostly with Delray. And when they come in for Delray, see the prices and I bring up Lake Worth and Boynton Beach, I've sold the majority of them in Lake Worth. And a lot of people will choose to stay a few weeks before choosing to come to Lake Worth. Let's see, collect money for, okay, another thing we're proud of as a community, I know that I hosted a gathering at the property to collect money to purchase new band uniforms to a local school. This was done through the generosity of other Airbnb hosts that actually gave in, and we try to do this on a regular basis. The school was so grateful and the smiles on the children's faces were so worth it, an affirmation that we as hosts want to keep making a positive impact in this town for locals as well as the guests. I don't see the negative aspect as long as you have responsible owners that know how to deal with it. And I have annuals and I have short terms, and short terms are a lot harder to manage, but I will tell you that we keep them spick and span because the minute you get off a 5-star rating, you're not going to rent out your place because there's a lot of. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Jana Cavalcanti, followed by Helen Betances. Name and address, please.
Hello.
You are well prepared.
Sorry, I'm trying to address this. Good now. Jana Cavalcanti, 21 Harvard Drive. I'm a bit jet lagged, so just put up with me for a minute. Let's be honest. Our city continues to spend valuable time and taxpayer resources chasing short-term rentals with an ordinance that's legally vulnerable. We're spinning our wheels publicly, and everyone knows that enforcing this ordinance could very well expose the city of Lake Worth Beach to a costly lawsuit. It doesn't have to be this way. We urge you to reconsider the current approach on short-term rentals and choose collaboration over confrontation. There is a thriving community of responsible hosts in Lake Worth Beach who want to be a part of the solutions. We recognize their real concerns. I heard you back there. And I'm willing to work with you. Real concerns. And we are here to, can be solved. You can't solve those concerns with crackdowns. We ask the city to engage directly with short-term rental hosts to better understand what's happening, to use open dialogue to find the solutions and a different approach to this issue. We have been here 7 times. We haven't been able to vote on that. We keep spinning the wheels because there is knowledge that needs to be shared from both sides, the ones who are in opposition to what we do, and us who understand the business model better than anybody else in this room. We can protect our neighborhood's quality of life without shutting down a vital part of our economy. We have an example of collaboration to share with you tonight. I have served as a community leader with Airbnb since 2021. My role is to represent the voice of my community to a corporation who's actively listening to us and working with us to make a difference. One of the most pressing issues raised right here by neighbors is homelessness. I speak on this not from theory, but from experience. I was homeless once myself. I know firsthand what it means to live without stability, without food, without shelter. It is not something you fully understand by walking down Lake Avenue, Lucerne, or Bryant Park. sorry, it makes me a bit nervous because it was quite a bit and it's very dear to my heart.
I'm
Because
very sorry to tell you that time's up.
Your time is up.
we got a $40,000 grant for Habitat for Humanity Lake Worth Beach
Okay.
to build housing.
Okay, thank you. Good job. Helen Betances, followed by Michael Cuevas.
Hi, Helen Betances, 76 18th Avenue South. I always come up here and give my testimony on why I became a short-term rental host. And I know most of you have heard it before, so I don't really want to elaborate on that, but I do, as another volunteer community leader for Airbnb, one of the things that we do is bring the host community together. And like Jana mentioned, we want to have an active role with the cities and be a part of those decisions that you make so that, you know, we're all on board and on the same page. But the other thing I want to add is that one of the things that I like to do is involve our hosts, right? We're business owners, you know, we're small business owners. We contribute to the cities we live in. And this past year, our host, I think it's in April, we did an Earth Day cleanup with the city of West Palm Beach. There was at least 20 of us. We have a big, it's on Instagram. Our whole group is there with Airbnb, you know.
Not Lake Worth Beach?
We're doing a beach cleanup this summer in Lake Worth Beach. We're gonna probably do a couple of them. You know, that just came up. It was Earth Day and Lake Worth Beach didn't have an event for Earth Day, you know. But the other thing is like we together as a community of hosts and small business owners, we did a fundraising in December and we raised $450 for South Grade Elementary.
Right.
And we bought them new band polo shirts and I'd like to share them.
Well, that's great.
You know, we did that with the whole community. No one forced us. No one said we had to do that, you know, and we thought the arts is part of Lake Worth Beach. It's an electric community. We love the arts. And I'm like, what better way to give back to the community? And we're constantly discussing that when we have meetups. What else can we do to give back to the community? So I want you to know that as Lake Worth Beach host, we love the city we live in. We love the homes we live in. And we want to make the city a better place, whether that's, you know, culturally, residential, you know, just beautify the whole city. That's what we're about. And like other hosts have told you, like we care about our homes and our community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is that address 76? Is that your home or is that your Airbnb?
Both. I have a private room.
Oh,
in the back
okay.
of my home.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Here's your letter. And thank you for helping South Grade. They need all the help they can get. I'm sure. Michael Corvus, followed by Pam Triola.
Michael Cuevas, 102, 104 South J and 116 North Ocean Breeze. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I sent all of you a pretty long email earlier, which if you got through that, kudos to you. This issue is very near and dear to my heart in that I've been building a business here in Lake Worth Beach for 8 years. I live in West Palm, but I spend a lot of time here in Lake Worth Beach managing these properties. I have 6 studios and 5 one-bedroom apartments, and have hosted upwards of 600 guests here in Lake Worth Beach over the last almost 8 years. I've been a super host 28 out of 30 quarters, which means that you are maintaining a 4.8 out of 5 star review and 100% response rate, which is really hard. And, you know, a lot of the people have already, you know, talked about how engaged that they are with their properties. And, you know, building this business here has allowed me to become more and more engaged with this city, more passionate about this city that I wasn't with until I started this business. I had heard Cassandra talk earlier, who actually was my Airbnb guest a few years ago. Jesse is one of my neighbors here, who we've got to know each other rather well. One of my repeating guests every year helped one of Jesse's long-term tenants next door help find her dog last year. So, you know, I think it's misunderstood that we are, you know, a lot of these absentee owners that are just trying to make money, that aren't engaged with the city. I've gotten engaged to some extent politically. I volunteer here locally. You know, Lake Worth Beach is now my second home, my second love in Palm Beach County. And as far as just the maintenance aspect, I mean, our guests are having to have these 5-star experiences because these properties need to be immaculate, they need to be pest-free, they need to be safe, they need to be well lit, they need to have adequate parking, the ACs need to be blowing, they have to have their Wi-Fi, they have to have all their other mechanicals that are working at all times. It's a lot of work. They have to have the exterior spaces well kept. And so, I mean, this is the type of engagement that all of these people have. And I just think it's misunderstood that, you know, these short-term rental owners are, you know, don't have their eye on the ball. And so I think overwhelmingly, there's so many more positives than negatives with short-term rental owners. And we should be not condemning them, but collaborating and working with them, just like any other long-term rental owner or even single-family homeowners. We can.
Thank you, that's time.
I just have a question for you. You have 104 South J Street. That's not your home address?
No.
What's your home address?
Oh, I'm sorry. 600 South Dixie, number 131 in West Palm Beach.
South 301?
South Dixie Highway. Number 131.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Whoops. Okay, now we have Ms. Clahane, Pam Jola Clahane. Well, she's not much more clearly this time. She's not trying to mess me up.
I'm not trying to mess it. Pam Jola Clahane, 410 North Ocean Breeze. This issue, I guess, in the latter portion of what I said on the other side, came up when the state actually came down with their ruling, saying that you couldn't make any changes to the Airbnb rules, and we were stuck in a sticky wicket because it was, what do you do? You know, how do you do it? So we had to do a lot of research. In fact, I reached out a lot to the Airbnb people, and I would say almost everybody that got up here and spoke. First of all, I'm an Airbnb user, a VRBO user, have used them. I'm sure most of us, even if we're against them, have probably used one once or twice. The issue was, you know, I lived across the street from a big Spanish house, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and a guest house that had 2 separate apartments. And it was constantly filled with people and parties and all kinds of stuff. It just was nonstop. Constant turnover, constant whatever. Porno was shot there. FAU, well, one of the universities had a Halloween party and like 500 people assembled on my street, you know, and I mean, it was just a different kind of thing. And when I reached out to Airbnb people, you know, in the neighborhoods, it was never the homes where people lived in them or rented out a room. Everyone knew that those places because they were a member of the community. It was always the ones with the absentee owner. You know, it was the one who lived in Colorado who had, you know, a unit here, sorry. And I know there's someone here from Colorado. But it was the one that didn't have a handle on the community, you know, and they were just doing it as investments. And I understand too, you know, the fact that when you buy a single family house in a single family neighborhood, to have people changing every single day on both sides of you is kind of a difficult thing. You move into a single family neighborhood because you want some consistency in neighbors that you're going to do. So I get both sides of the fence, and that's why that can has been kicked. But I think you have a little bit more wiggle room now, and I think people are more accepting, and there's a lot more that Airbnb and VRBO has done legally to make sure that the organization, I mean, from where it is now to where it was back then, you know, it was kind of mayhem back then. Everyone was trying to find their way and they were trying to make rules, and they would never kick you off those things. Now, she said, if you don't get a 5-star review, you're not going to rent. You know, it's come a long way. And I think you guys are ready to make a really good decision, and I'm proud that you're addressing it. And if I can be of any help, let me know.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor. First comment is from Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. Short-term rentals provide a lot of positives for a community like Lake Worth. First, it provides vacation/season rentals that introduce folks to our wonderful city. Second, many Airbnb hosts take dilapidated housing stock and turn it into a gem in the community. Third, rentals provide higher tax base since the property, assuming it is managed properly and legally, is not homesteaded. I would love to see Airbnbs in many areas of the city, except not in neighborhoods that are zoned residential. While there are lots of positives for Airbnbs, there are clearly negatives as well. Airbnbs are most certainly a commercial use and often an intensive commercial use that do not belong in residential zoned areas. It is not appropriate or fair for a property owner to run a mini hotel, hosting different people every week or weekend. It is not fair for homeowners who bought a home in a residential area expecting quiet enjoyment of their home to then have to deal with parties and barbecues and late night outdoor events. There are also issues related to parking, noise, trash, and safety. And finally, it is clear that Airbnbs dramatically change the nature of living in a residential neighborhood. Instead of having neighbors who you know and trust, you have a revolving door of strangers who come and go every week. Finally, the cost of living, including rent, is an issue in South Florida. We need long-term rentals for the people who work and live in this city year-round. Unfortunately, the state has stymied adoption of short-term rental laws by local municipalities, which would allow Lake Worth Beach to regulate where Airbnbs could be located and how many Airbnbs could be located on a block, etc. As such, I'm not in favor of changing our current grandfathered law because then it just opens up a floodgate of more of these STRs. Oh, okay, sorry, that's time for that one. Next is Robert Miller, 1975 Sandsbury Way, Suite 114, West Palm Beach. I'm a local investor in the city of Lake Worth Beach and feel the only way for businesses to survive and thrive downtown Lake Worth is through tourism. I support well-regulated short-term rentals because they are essential to the survival of downtown businesses. With a limited number of quality hotel rooms in our city, STRs fill a critical gap by attracting visitors who stay longer, spend locally, and support our restaurants, shops, and cultural attractions. Without this flexible lodging option, we risk losing tourism revenue to neighboring cities with more hospitality infrastructure. Thoughtful short-term rental policies can protect neighborhoods while helping our local economy thrive. Next is Lynn Miller, 7555 Sierra Drive East in Boca Raton. I've owned a nice rental here in Lake Worth Beach for over 10 years. We have the nicest guests come to stay and they spend money in our local restaurants and bars and shopping. We are fully licensed with the city of Lake Worth, Palm Beach County, and the State Department of Revenue. We pay our taxes every month and we keep our home up nice. Next is Lisa Roddy, 212 North L Street. I am an owner of property in Lake Worth. Jim and I have put our hearts and hard work into bringing our house and cottage back to life. It was falling to pieces and was not cared for until we cleaned it up and now allowing guests to stay while visiting. We have hosted so many coming back to see family, friends, and the quaint town they grew up in. We have had vacationers enjoying the town, restaurants, and beach, workers here from out of town, nurses in school, people staying while building or looking for their new forever homes. Without places as ours to enrich our entire economy, Lake Worth would not be what it is today, or what we all need into the future. Lastly, long-term renters alone have been disrespectful and destructive of our property. With short-term renting, we are able to keep our property clean and in great condition with beautiful curb appeal. Our life depends on and revolves around our property to be close to our family and retirement. This is our everything. Please consider what it would take away from us and all the others that care so much about the economy in our wonderful small town. Next is Roger Bennett, 128 North F Street. I own two small STRs located at 126 North F Street. The rentals are fully compliant and registered with the city, county, and state. The renters that I have contribute substantially to the community in the form of dining out, attending the Lake Worth Beach Playhouse, beach parking, and monthly beach rentals, plus shopping in the downtown area. They come to and come back to Lake Worth Beach for the community, the walkability, and the affordability. Several have actually bought homes here after staying with me. The argument that STRs take away from LTRs and increase costs is crazy. The LTRs on my street are mostly in disrepair, and with the high cost of taxes and insurance, Well cared for rentals cannot be cheap here. My taxes, insurance, and utilities on this one property are over $30,000 a year. And when well maintained, they command a good rent, STR or LTR. We need STRs to ensure tourists come and return to the city. And next is Cecilia Ghilardotti, 622 South N Street. I own one short-term rental here in Lake Worth Beach. This home has quietly become part of some of the most meaningful moments in people's lives. A soldier stayed here while on break from Afghanistan, reuniting with family before returning to duty. A daughter spent her father's final days with him while he was in hospice. A couple stayed while the wife underwent chemotherapy at JFK. A family brought their children to see the ocean for the very first time. I operate with great care and respect for my neighbors. I use outdoor cameras, indoor noise monitoring, and have strict rules on parking, occupancy, and quiet hours. In fact, it's often my guests who complain about noise from a long-term neighbor, not the other way around. My guests rarely cook. They eat at local places like Benny's at the beach and downtown restaurants. They all visit the beach and pay for parking. I employ local cleaners, a handyman, a landscaper, and even pay a neighbor to help with trash. That's real income staying in this community. Because my home isn't homesteaded, I paid $7,589 in property taxes in 2024, compared to my next door neighbor who paid just $1,252 for a home the same size and value. A portion of that goes directly to the city. I'm not a corporation. I'm a local resident, and this rental helps me afford rising costs while maintaining the property at a high standard. I'm also able to reinvest earnings into improving the home, always using local labor and services. Please don't ban short-term rentals. Responsible hosts like me are not the problem. We're part of what keeps Lake Worth Beach vibrant, welcoming, and supported in every sense. Next is Shane Regan, 535 South Palmway. To the city commissioners and planning officials, City of Lake Worth Beach, subject support for short-term rentals, a vital part of our community. Dear commissioners, my name is Shane and I am a full-time resident of Lake Worth Beach. I'm writing to express my strong support for the continuation of short-term rentals in our city and to urge you to reconsider any potential bans or restrictions being proposed. My wife and I are hardworking members of this community. I am a business owner operating a fashion company and have worked part-time for years at my parents' local establishment, Progues. My wife works full-time as a real estate agent, both locally and internationally. Together, we both work over 60 hours a week, 6 days a week. Yet even with our efforts, we could not afford to support our children's education and living expenses without the supplemental income that STRs provide. This isn't just a business venture, it's a lifeline. I currently hold 3 active business licenses in Lake Worth Beach, as well as licenses from the DBPR and Palm Beach County. We are proud contributors to the local economy. The STR community in Lake Worth is made up of residents like myself, people who live here, raise families here, and invest in their homes and neighborhoods. Most of us own just 1 or 2 properties. We care deeply about this city, its future, and the well-being of our fellow residents. In many cases, we wouldn't be able to continue living in Lake Worth Beach without the ability to legally rent part of our homes or have a second home with STRs. Short-term rentals provide vital housing for individuals receiving medical treatment nearby, local residents undergoing home renovations or emergency repairs, families visiting loved ones in Lake Worth. Over 30% of our guests fall into this category. Guests routinely leave glowing 5-star reviews. Okay, the next is Barbara Sweat, 66 18th Avenue South. Are you all going to ignore your own Lake Worth Beach emergency housing study final report on the effects of short-term vacation rentals, page 136E, allows investors, many who live out of state, to turn residential housing into SVRs, in some instances actually displacing long-term renters from their homes. We have several SVRs on 18th Avenue South. One has their entire front porch wall painted. The PP Inn, it's a residential neighborhood, not commercial. Effects not mentioned in the report is street parking overload and large work trailers being parked for days. The yard trash bins for organic yard trash being used for excessive kitchen and bathroom garbage instead of yard debris, then being dumped right into the yard waste truck. The bins then are left on the street for days. Please keep residential and commercial separate and keep our residential neighborhoods safe and appealing. Next is Willie Volk, 1405 North Ocean Breeze. Good afternoon, Ms. Mayor and Commissioners. I strongly oppose any ban on short-term rentals in Palm Beach County. First, the economic impact is undeniable. In 2024, Palm Beach County welcomed nearly 10 million visitors, generating over 10.5 billion for the local economy and supporting about 90,000 jobs. STRs are a key part of this ecosystem, especially in neighborhoods that hotels don't serve. Second, STRs deliver vital tax revenues. The county's 6% tourist development tax generates over 12 million per month in peak seasons, funding tourism promotion and local projects. Removing STRs would shrink this crucial funding source. Third, housing concerns are often overstated. Palm Beach County's 6.4% rental vacancy rate and a 5.7% decline in average rents year over year suggest STRs are not the primary affordability issue. Lastly, Palm Beach County already has clear STR regulations requiring business tax receipts and tourist tax registration. Rather than a ban, we should focus on fair enforcement and balanced policy. Please don't cut off this important sector of our economy. Let's regulate, not eliminate. Thank you. And the last comment is from Georgia Clermesmo, I apologize. I think it is a conflict of interest for Mayor Resch, Commissioner Segrich, and Commissioner Maliga to vote on this topic. Ms. Resch and Mr. Segrich has STRs. Ms. Maliga, I've heard say the STRs help her business. That's all the comments on this issue, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
I submitted online and I thought that was something to be.
What's your name?
JD McClintock.
Is there JD McClintock in your list, ma'am?
The
Madam Clerk?
list, he indicated he wanted to appear on Zoom and he's not on Zoom.
Okay, well, he's here live, so he can speak. So you got, go away, get on Zoom, come on. So you got 2 minutes. Right, name and address for, please.
JD McClintock, on there, I put 5472 Lake Osborne Drive. I currently reside on North C Street at 403. My name is JD McClintock. I'm a resident of Lake Worth Beach, realtor, short-term rental operator in several markets, and proud to serve on the executive committee of the local Realtors Association, with the largest association and trade group in the area, representing private property rights and home ownership. First, thank you all for the work we've done in the past in collaboration to put smart and good regulation on many different things in this city and many others. Tonight, we are here in contingent of our realtor leadership and our GAD, or otherwise known as the lobbyists, is here to represent both the community and the realtors that work here, and myself being a resident. Short-term rentals matter. They bring visitors who support local business, generate tax revenue for our city, and create real jobs for cleaners, property managers, contractors, and others who live right here in Lake Worth. In addition, many who come and stay, as others have said, become our residents, and they fall in love with the lifestyle that we get to enjoy, including when I was out on Lake Worth Ave last night. According to the emergency housing study, yes, there is housing may be limited, but also the lodging opportunities are limited in this city. Short-term rentals help bridge that gap. I operate in multiple markets. The industry is extremely competitive, as many have said. While a few bad actors may exist, the vast majority of hosts, especially small operators like me, who may own only one unit in a community, keep our properties in excellent condition because guest reviews determine our survival. This is not about avoiding regulation. It's about replacing an outdated ban with clear, balanced framework
that protects community standards and rewards responsibility. It's also important to remember, rental properties provide a vital safety net for tax revenue, especially as the governor explores reducing and eliminating property tax for homestead properties in the state of Florida. A healthy, diversified tax base strengthens our city's financial future. I respectfully urge you to allow short-term rentals in Lake Worth Beach and move forward with sensible regulation approach that works for residents, property owners, and the city. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, do I have a motion? Oh, okay, do I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
Yes.
I do have my hand still up and I'd
There are lights
indicate.
on. Mr. McBoy, there are lights on here. Mr. Segwich was before you, and I think he wants to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to instruct staff to come back with an ordinance to change the code and LDRs consistent with allowing short-term rentals and institute common sense regulations for them.
Do I have a second?
A second with conversation?
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What would that entail? Because I'm thinking if we decide, one of the things we would need to do, I think, would be repeal the 60-day minimum.
Okay, I think, in direction that you're going, we would have to change our definition for transient lodging to match up with the states, which is 30 days or less. We would have to amend and provide some definitions within our LDRs and also change the permitted use table, so it will be clear for people who are going online to see what can happen where. We would need to make changes to, I think it's chapter 7 or 14 is a business tax receipt or business license section of the code. There may need to be a change made to chapter 2 administration, which deals with nuisances and code compliance. That's the minimum errors that we can do that collectively. The changes to the LDR would have to go before our local planning agencies, which is the Planning and Zoning Board and the Historic Resource Preservation Board. But it's based on where we have ended up. It's far less onerous on the areas that we have to change or will want to change based on what it was when the white paper was written by Christy and myself 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I can't remember now. A long time ago.
Years ago.
The lady that did bring up something about the homestead exemption, I don't think we have any control over that. So we wouldn't address that piece of it. And there are right now, no additional fees that we can collect from vacation rentals that we don't already collect as residential rentals. So for the people that you're aware, we would not be changing. Now, we may at some point get more bed tax that's funneled through in some mechanism, but we don't have any fees that we could change the amount of our use and occupancy registration fee, which you'll be considering that as part of the FY26 budget. We already are changing the fee schedule in our business tax receipt, which is coming to you next week to raise it by 5%. However, we don't have a specific item for short-term rentals in the business tax receipt, so it's going to fall under the same collection as residential rentals, which is miscellaneous, which I think is $111, maybe $110.
So it'd be the same as a regular rental.
Yes.
And I have one other question before we get started. One of the things that comes up actually in the next agenda item, but the responsible, we have this thing about having a responsive, and I've asked many, many times, where's that information? How can we access it? So that's going to be coming up in the next agenda item.
Well, that's in reference to a different thing, but when you have a business license, you do have to list a responsible party with an email and an address and a phone number and that sort of stuff.
Yes, but we have passed an ordinance that says like within, I forget how many hours they have to, no, it's much less than that. That someone has to, there has to be a person, if there's a problem, there's a person. And my issue, and I've said this before, is if it's in a file in the business, in the planning and zoning sustainable department, it doesn't help the neighbor with the problem right next door. So I'm hoping at the next agenda item that we're going to talk about a little bit more, making those people
public. Well, one of our goals with rolling out the next version of the Central Square system is that information that's in certain cells within that system will be available to the public, which aren't now. Because right now we use Click2Gov to see the information that's on the city system. The only way to do what you're talking about under our current system before that one is rolled out is we create some kind of Excel spreadsheet that has to be maintained by a person and be updated on a regular basis, which is a additional cost from staff that we are not going to be able to recoup any revenue from.
So there'd be a rental, every time a rental license would be issued, that would be entered. That'd be
Yeah,
part of
but
the,
we have 7,000 business licenses in the city. And all of them would have to be touched manually versus where it is right now. You put it in the novel line. It's stored there. You go to click the gov, you can pick up and you can see a business license number, you can see the address, you can see some information. But the evolution, which is coming, is we have a whole week set up with the new Central Square group. I think it's next
so
week.
will that be available
That's
after?
going to be
Okay,
available.
maybe that's fine.
It's coming, hopefully by the end of this
So
calendar
anybody
year.
can look it up and go, that address is problem and here's the guy to call. Okay, that's all I want. Thank you. Mr. McBoy? And,
Yeah.
No, Ms. Malega was up first. I'm sorry. And we're in the 5-minute rule now.
5-minute rule?
5-minute
Okay.
rule.
So I do support short-term rentals. I have properties across the street from my house. 4 homeowners, 2 are 2 of the worst neighbors in the world. I told Jamie this the other day. And they are both young, able-bodied couples that could very well take care of their yard and they don't. The nicest house is an Airbnb. Gentleman lives in Colorado. He comes in and out of town. When he's there, I see his Colorado plate. I know he's there and he rents it out. And that house was bank owned and boarded up for 14 years. It was the only house on my block where I bought my house that was still the eyesore. And I was grateful when this gentleman came in and bought it. I've stayed in Airbnbs. I'm supporting this. I supported it before, but I'm going to support it with 2 caveats for me. Many of you stood up here and said it's a business, then you should be paying commercial rates for water, sewer, electric, and garbage. And I don't care how it takes staff to figure it out, but there's got to be a way for us to deviate on these short-term rentals. It's a tax write-off. It's a business. They need to be paying tax base rates on commercial. Okay, so we got to work that out. Second thing is we don't have the staff to oversee and to regulate. So I believe, Madam Mayor, you were with me at the National League of Cities when I met Deckard Technologies. It's a third party who will basically babysit, scrub the data, make sure everyone's compliant, everyone's being a good player. And they will give the staff, the city staff, a report every 7 days, every 30 days, who's in compliant, who's not compliant, who's anything we need to know. And it's $36,000 for the year. Now we can obviously go out for an RFP and try to find somebody else, but that to me is much easier than us trying to put this on staff to say, here, now go maintain the short-term rentals in addition to everything else that we're trying to put on them. So those are the 2 caveats that I want to talk about. To me, those are 2 important issues. All the other rules and regulations we have that already fall under rentals. And I do think that these are two points that I really want to drive home. I don't know if I can pass this around for everyone to look at.
It's kind of a, okay.
It's kind of a what?
Well, we're just getting, it'd be nice if we'd had it ahead of time.
Well, I would like someone to, I actually brought this up over a year ago for them to come do a presentation on, and there are many agencies out there that can do this, but this company went ahead and already put it together and sent it to me in the mail. But as long as I can get support on those 2 things, I think that I'm fully in favor of releasing this 60-day minimum.
Well, I'm going to respond to that real quick. I mean, right now, I mean, I think we're talking in terms of a global look. Okay, I think if we're going to get narrowed down to water rates and commercial, whether we do that, personally, I think that takes a little bit more than what we have tonight. But I'll turn that over to the others. So, Mr. McBoy, start your
Yes. Yes, thank you. I think we've all heard all sorts of economic reasons, future home buyer reasons, a number of others, all of which seem to have some validity of benefits of short-term rentals. I think we've also heard clear indication from a number of residents, and I've heard it, for a number of years from a variety of others too, that there are downsides, particularly in single-family residential neighborhoods. Concerns about what it does to house pricing, and concerns about fairness, I guess, to residential home buyers who buy in a residential neighborhood. And as the vice mayor stated, many of these folks who have come to speak in favor have said these are businesses. Well, normally, we do not allow businesses in residential neighborhoods. So I think there's a legitimate concern as to whether we should do this or not. I am not personally enthusiastic about us having a rule on the books and then deliberately choosing not to enforce it. I don't think that's very good government practice. But at the same time, I'm also very concerned, perhaps equally or more so concerned, about relinquishing our grandfathered pre-2011 status. So my request would be to add, if I'm going to support this, I would need commitment from the rest of the commission to follow up on what the vice mayor said about, hey, if it's a business, it's a business, then they should pay commercial rates for the various things that they do. I would also like to ask that staff research and bring us back before we vote, before we take the irreversible step of giving up grandfathered status, bring us back proposals that pass legal muster for a zoning district or zoning overlay or whatever the appropriate name is, that would tend to focus STRs in the downtown core, further away from much of the single family neighborhoods, and then research any options, again, legally possible for us, maybe distance, proximity requirements that we have for a number of other businesses, see whether those can be applied, because the big concerns I hear are, again, business in a residential neighborhood and the density. Along a block. We heard from a number of people on 18th Avenue South that there's bunches of them, and it was people bought with the understanding that it was a residential neighborhood. So those would be my conditions for support, that we, before voting, get staff to research. Can we have districts that would allow us to concentrate them in the downtown area, and charging as a business for water, electric, sewer, whatever our things are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
We do know based on the research we've done that we cannot limit them we cannot limit short-term rentals if they are allowed to a specific zoning district. They have to be allowed wherever residential use is allowed. They've also looked at the Florida Attorney General that is doing like an overlay where you would have distance requirements, and the Florida Attorney General has opined that that would also violate the state preemption.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. May.
I kind of want to ask, first of all, I want to ask the attorney, is the ask for the commercial rates legal?
Madam Mayor, if I may, yeah. So there's an interesting issue here because the conservative approach is to treat all the residential uses the same within a zoning district. Can you spell out vacation rentals, short-term rentals, because they are spelled out specifically in state statute? And there's a lot of cities that have imposed regulations that spell them out a little different, that rather than a longer term rental or obviously other residential uses. So could you label them a commercial use for purposes of utilities is something we'd have to look at a lot closer. But fleshing through some of the case law on this, there's not a clear case where someone has really challenged it. Obviously the utilities charging as commercial rate, that's not been challenged. Whether it creates some sort of equal protection issue. There's a couple cases that I've looked at where the courts have said no, because the law does treat them differently. And of course, we don't lose our police power. So if there's a specific reason why we would treat vacation rentals different than a regular residential use, that may be something we can do. It's just going to require us to do more research. And I think that's why Elizabeth gave you that little short memo as to the regulations we know that have been upheld.
So and also when we're thinking about this, I mean, I'm actually not for the commercial rates, because I think that my brain just keeps telling me a rental is a rental. And the other part is it would be really hard to differentiate if I have I have a house and I actually have 3 bays of garage. The third one is a room with a bathroom. So I could short-term rental that. But the majority of my house I'm living in. So do I now have to do commercial rates? So I think it would make it very difficult. I don't know because I'm not a lawyer, but I think it would make it very difficult to decipher. I'm not going to pay partial commercial, partial residential, and I think that a lot of the opinions on short-term rentals are so personalized because of people's personal experience with them. I have a short-term rental next door to me. The fact that it's a short-term rental is not the problem I have with it. The fact that their ficus tree grows over the entire front sidewalk and you can't walk in front of their house is the problem I have with it. And as far as, I'd rather have one weekend of having screaming children there than have them actually live next door. So, it does have to do, I love kids. So, I mean, but my point being is, and that's my experience. So I think we have to be real careful giving personal experience and then making decisions based on it, because everybody has their own personal experience. So that's why I wanted to look at the legality of it. And I would have a hard time supporting the commercial rates unless I could be thoroughly convinced that it was enforceable and that would be common. I don't want to be the only city in the entire world that does this. I mean, if it's not a common practice throughout the vacation rental world, I would like to know more about that. I don't want to, we don't always have to be different. So I'd like to know more about if that, and I don't know who would know that, probably the vacation rental people, but I'd like to know more about that. So that's what I have right now.
So do you, in terms of global, do you think we can make a decision tonight about whether we back away from the restrictions without having dealt with the commercial rate?
I can make a decision tonight on that.
Okay.
But the commercial rate one, I need more information.
Yeah, and I mean, would that be for all rentals or just, short-term rentals? That would be a
Well, and I think that's it. If you make it one rental, well, she said that maybe you could. It hasn't been challenged. That's what she said.
We'll take a look, but
So
I don't support.
But I want to hear what it's done in other places outside of these 7 square miles regarding rates.
And the funny is, we have our own electric, so everybody that doesn't have, so you have FPNL, I'm sure doesn't do that. Mr. Segrich,
It's
you're up.
under a business name, it sure they do.
Every rental is a business.
So
all right,
I'm
let's-
confident that we
Mr.
can
Sig-
move forward, and the issue of whether we can charge them commercial rates or not commercial rates, that's going to come up as part of the regulations that we established. And so we'll have ample chance to research that and do that. I just wanted to, go through just a couple of things that may put some people's mind at ease from other municipalities and what they've done and what the platforms have done. Because fortunately and unfortunately, we've been at this for over 7 years and a lot has changed. There is technology to do occupancy detection, noise detection. The platforms are actually giving out these devices for free to owner operators. There's third-party data integration that allows for platform integrations and enforcement. As Commissioner Malega brought up, she actually keyed on one of the top providers in this space. They work on both sides of the aisle, both in community and municipality enforcement, as well as providing host tools for pricing and integration. So their data is top-notch, and I truly believe that would be one of the only ways we would be able to regulate this. Video check-in. A big one is that PBSO will be acting under the direction of the DVPR. It's a very different interaction.
What's the DVPR?
Department of.
I'm trying to be user-friendly here. Thank you.
So, their interactions with these property
what?
professional business regulation. Their interactions with these properties is very different than a long-term rental. They don't need to contact the owner to kick somebody out. They basically can treat them the same they would treat a rowdy person in a bar. If there was a party, they can go and they can take action. Many other municipalities and counties have had success with that. I did speak with Captain Karn about this, and he indicated that there are other areas that PBSO covers where they have actually really dove deep into this and had some good success. So they already have experience working with this. There's a dedicated law enforcement portal for them for these platforms. So they can actually get the identities of the people staying there. So more than just a contact of a person, there's a lot of tools out there for them, and there's a dedicated task force. Having a registered contact, I don't think any host would have a problem with that. Then some cities, I believe Boynton is actually doing a registry for these, and they're publicizing that, and they're having a registry fee, and I don't believe there's been any pushback on that. Hosts can get garbage services, and I think if hosts are behaving badly and having their garbage all over the street, they should get whacked by code enforcement, because there's no excuse for it. There are services out there. And to address the fact of you shouldn't have businesses in a residential neighborhood, I would just turn to the Home Business Act of the state of Florida. It protects the right to have businesses in residential neighborhoods. So we can't always let our personal feelings go above the law. So obviously I've been at this for a long time, and I am in support of this. But I really wanted, with my comments, to stress, I believe that the Airbnb host community or short-term rental host community is firmly behind very strong common sense regulations, perhaps even regulations that are stronger that our staff have even imagined. I've submitted example regulations. I did get a sample ordinance from Airbnb that I will share that has a lot of this stuff. And there are others who have crafted ordinances that are far stricter than any draft I've seen for this city, where I think good hosts would sign on to that and support it, and come out to support that and allow us to create a healthy tourism environment. So thank you.
Thank you. I had a neighbor, and it was a long-term rental, and he was there for about 2.5 years, and he made my life a living hell. Bonfires, drunk people, police, all the time. I was like, could this only, and I did have a short-term rental, my apartment on South Lakeside. And I mean, you have to keep them up, because otherwise people don't want to stay there. So I'm in favor of releasing this, whatever we have to change to do that. I don't think, yes, it does tie up some otherwise long-term rentals. However, people have said to me, it'll help the affordability of those long-term rentals. And I think that's just not true. They're going to, if someone spends a lot of money, I mean, the houses in our town are low for, now a house on my little cottage street, they're going for $400,000, $500,000 for silly little cottages. And so in order to rent them out, you've got to charge a high rent, and Airbnbs do make a little bit more money than a regular rental. So I'm in favor of doing it. I think we can look at the specifics later. I am against commercial fees, because every rental then would have to pay commercial fees, and I just don't. Well, okay. I'm against it, but that's okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, we have public comment, we have commissioner comments. Does anyone want to call the question? Do I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so it's 4-1, it passes. So congratulations. The can has stopped being kicked down the road. Thank you very much. Yeah, you go home now. Our feelings don't get hurt if you leave here.
We can go home.
Yeah, we are now halfway through the agenda.
I'm sure everybody's sitting here waiting for the vacant and foreclosed property registration debate.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Good night, Charlotte. It's like the best song. I think she takes her everything.
Awesome. That's awesome. That is good. That is good. I like it. Mm, mm, mm.
Okay, next up. That's a promise. Every once in a while, we'd get food before a meeting. I don't know what happened. New business A. No, none of it is even. Vacant and foreclosed property registration update. Do we have any, you want to say something? Would you like to say something, Mr. Waters?
Well, I believe, again, William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. This has been brought back for your consideration based on conversations that I think took place back in last November, I think, about the fee schedule and how we register vacant, unimproved, and improved, as well as foreclosed properties, especially in light of the fact that the original entity that registers them for us, Community Champions, went out of business. And so we do these in-house. And so based on the very collective and broad parameters that you gave us to consider, provided in the staff report are 6 recommendations of how to move forward on this, of which you could take 1 or more of them, or you could take none of them. In summary, we've proposed to reduce the fee, the annual fee, to $250. That would stay an annual payment until the 5th year, and then it would go up $100 to $350. And would stay at $350 thereafter until the property is no longer vacant. There is a requirement, because this goes back to something that the commission brought up ages and ages ago, was that we have the property appropriately posted, and that for properties that have any improvement on, like a building, they have electricity or body with lighting of some sort to keep people away. And then out of another concern that was raised by the public, is that they provide a mechanism to reduce the registration fee for those people who live within the city and have property here, since they likely, hopefully, would be more responsible for their properties. And so provided here is a concept of a 50% reduction in the registration fee for those people who have homesteaded residences within the city. Now, the numbers here are a bit, I won't say arbitrary, but they just kind of came to light. And there is a financial impact that, based on our guesstimation, that if you were to adopt what we have here, our annual collection on vacant registry would go down from 75,000 to 50,000 annually. If you were to reduce this more, we can take that into consideration and see what it might be. Go from there.
Thank you.
And the registry, and this, all this requires effectively, there are no 4 and 5 would require us to make an amendment to the chronic nuisance section, I believe, of the code. I think it's chapter 2. 1, 2, and 3 can be done as part of your schedule of fees and charges that are coming out for FY26.
Okay, there's a lot here to unravel, as they say. Do I have a motion first to get going?
Motion to approve.
And
Approve what?
exactly what? Motion to approve what?
Well, I personally went through and I liked all the recommendations from staff. The only thing I wanted to add was on number 4. All properties that are registered must be appropriately posted to discourage illegal dumping or other activities occurring on the property. Couldn't we put, that would be a no trespassing sign from PVSO, because then PVSO could enforce if there are people pitching a tent, sleeping over.
Well, you have both that and you have the no dumping posting, so that would be 2.
Okay, so I'd like to add no trespassing. And then, so motion to approve with the following changes: adding no trespassing signs, and any unimproved property must be fenced or secured.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
I will second that.
We're not,
I mean, I will second it. I have a little caveat.
yeah, I have some comments myself.
I will second it so we can
For
discuss.
discussion.
But I would definitely second it with the changes of the no trespassing sign and the fencing, definitely.
Mr. Segrich, your light was on. I see your light is on, Mr. McBoy. I will call on you when we get there. Mr. Segrich was next.
Okay, I just had a question. So looking at some of the code cases and our code violators that have fines that are accruing, I did notice on a lot of them that they were also fined for not being on the foreclosure registry. At what point does somebody who has a lien on their property have to register with this foreclosure registry?
I think they're mutually exclusive. We have cited people, in the city of Lake Forest Beach, if you're not homestead exempted, you need to have some kind of registration with the city, either as an affidavit of non-rental, a rental license, or it's registered as vacant, foreclosed, or abandoned. So those are your options. A lien does not start unless you do not comply your property within a specified period of time. That's either stipulated by the special magistrate. We normally give you 30 days to register. It eventually goes to the magistrate. The magistrate normally gives like 30 days. So you may have known for as much as 90 days that you need to have your property registered. And as long as you get it registered within that time frame, no lien starts. Why people find it difficult to register a property, we have it's all online now, except for the payment, which we're working on. And a lien starts, it's befuddles me. Part of it is that many of the properties that are vacant and unimproved, the noticed address, which is from the property appraiser's office, is not where they like to receive their mail. And I probably hear this at least 5 times a week. I said, where does your tax bill go? How do you know to pay your taxes if you live in Timbuktu and the address on Papa is the actual address of the vacant property, which has no mailbox? I don't know. So anyway, sometimes they end up in liens because it takes a long time for them to actually get the message. And then we work with them to hopefully update their Papa records so that by state, we have to mail to the Papa. If they provide us an additional address, which was a suggestion from the mayor, we'll send it to both. But the return receipt postage for the notice of violation has to go to the address that is on the Papa record.
Okay. I am with Commissioner Malega, thinking that we should call out that they specifically need no trespassing signs and no parking. That seems to be a big one as well. Those lots seem to get used as parking, with the potential of towing if we have that. And then item 3, I don't think we should be providing a discount just because they live within the city. It should be easier for them to comply if they live within the city. And, you know, I know within our city, we've got a lot of good actors, but I also know a lot of bad actors who have many properties who do live within the city. So I'm not inclined for number 3.
Thank you. Ms. May, I think was next.
Thank you. I just turned it off and set it on. Thank you. I like the idea of the no parking. Anything that we can do to avoid having people on these properties, have dumping on these properties, have cars on these properties, have anything going on the properties besides them just sitting there. So a fence around it sounds wonderful. I too have crossed out number 3 in my notes. I don't believe that we should give a 50% reduction. I think that we've already reduced the fees from what they are right now and by, you know, an annual $20,000. So I don't think we should have number 3. So that's where I am as well.
Thank you, Ms. Malega. Oh, your light's up. Mr. McBoy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I have some questions for staff and then a couple of comments, depending on what comes back from that. What exactly is the goal of this registry? And I'm less focused on the foreclosed properties. I'm more focused on the vacant properties, vacant and unimproved. What is the goal for those properties of having this registry?
Without this registry, we do not have a mechanism to have a responsible entity available for PBSO, staff, public works, or anything to ensure that these properties do not become a nuisance.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
We do incur costs, basically serving as babysitters for people's vacant property. The other biggest complaint I have from my co-compliance staff is we're not responsible to monitor your property and tell you when the weeds need to be mowed. That's one of their biggest jobs, is like, hey, come maintain your property. And without a place to call or write, it turns into a formal notice of violation. Whereas this provides a mechanism, we can do a courtesy notice and say, hey, you got a problem on your property, go deal with it. Otherwise, it's going to turn into a notice of violation.
Okay, that seems reasonable, that you need some way of reaching the property owner that is an actual address or phone number or whatever it takes. That seems reasonable. Why would the fee for that go up over time?
Originally, when it was adopted, it was a flat fee every year. And then a policy decision was made. We would like to encourage people to do something more with these properties than let them just sit vacant. And so that we have an escalation now that can max out at $750. That was not overly well received by quite a number of people. So we were asked to come back and look at an alternative, which in this case, you pay the same fee for 5 years. And after the 5 years, it goes up by $100. And from that 6th year onward, you pay $350 until it's no longer needs to be registered. So it's a dramatic reduction, because we have properties paying some owners with multiple properties paying the max $750 right now. So they're automatically, if you adopt it as it is on the face of HIS, they will go back to, they will be paying $350 and not $750. And they're still sitting vacant.
I guess, okay, that's helpful clarification. I guess the concern, and maybe it's a concern with many things that we do, is that there are different situations that fall under this. That I've received communications from a number of homeowners who happen to, I don't know if they bought them at the same time or if they bought them subsequently, but are homesteaded and bought a piece of property next to their property, and they don't particularly want to develop it. And I guess I have sort of a hard time with the concept. Why are we telling property owners what they should do with their property? I understand if there are problems happening on the property, but we have other rules that deal with if people are, throwing junk on it or parking cars or being noisy or whatever the other problems are. We have rules separately that deal with that. So I guess at least for the situations where somebody is adjacent, I'm not clear why we would tell property owners what to do. So I guess I'm looking for a little response from staff on that.
We're not,
and I understand that there may be a range of situations.
Mr. Segridge?
I would also be comfortable leaving the fee schedule as it currently is. I think if we flatten it out, we're losing revenue and it's less of a deterrent for them to do something with it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mulligan?
I agree. Last year when this came up, and we had, I think, 5 people maybe, or 4 who stood here and were upset about it. I don't believe in land banking. And I will say that a lot of these people who have vacant properties in our city don't even live here. They're land banking and they're adding to the blight of our city. And until we start to enforce stuff, it's not going to get better. And I know that Public Works and Jamie's team is probably so tired of the emails of the pictures that I send of the dumping that happens on a lot of these lots. And you know what we hear from them? Well, we didn't know. Well, you don't know because you're not here and you don't care. So I'm also, and I wasn't in favor then. I'm not in favor of of lowering it, but I mean, it was fought hard last year during the fees. And I know we're going to talk about that during budget. I'm not a big fan of it either. The 50% reduction on the registered fee for property owners who live in the city. If it's an adjoining property, I may say, okay, I understand. But if you're somebody who inherited 7 lots and you're just land banking those lots to build generational wealth for your great grandkids, that's not going to help our city. So I think that's more discussion has to come on those things.
I think I'm going to ask to the attorney, but we might have an equal protection issue if we don't charge something, even if the vacant property is next to your property and it has it homesteaded. That's why we did shows here that you're paying something and you are registering, but you're paying half what everybody else is paying because you already are a party to being in the city. But if you wanted to wipe out that fee for that entity who already lives here, or has it homesteaded, I think you might have an equal protection issue.
Oh, no, I wasn't
Sort.
saying wipe it out. I said,
Adjacent.
no, giving the 50% discount
Well, I just
to
wanted to
the
address the
adjacent
other issue
one.
that was brought up by one of the other commissioners.
Yeah, no, if I'm in favor of giving a discount if it's an adjacent property, but to me, if you live on the water in College Park and you own 7 properties in District 2 that are not improved, why am I giving you a discount on those properties that you're just adding on blight?
Madam Mayor, and also if it's an adjacent property, couldn't they just do like a unity of control and
We have suggested that to people, and then I was criticized that we were possibly having a negative impact on the
Tax.
tax roll. Plus, how would you unsplit it? I'm like, well, our code has a mechanism that if it's a lot of record, you can split it back apart if you chose to develop it or sell it off at a later date. So that's a policy issue that I think there's a split of opinion. We've had a lot of consolidations of property because there was one property that had 11 parcels, which effectively looked like a single commercial use. And I figured, how did this happen? And we did convince them because you've got 10 vacant registries and you have a business license for a business. They did actually do unity of title and collect them all together. I could not figure out why somebody in their right mind would pay all the stormwater fees, the additional taxes, all of different things on 11 properties when it effectively was acting like a single property. Now, the taxes on the original property, which collected all these, did go up, but I will say that the net tax revenue to the city did go down by having them all do unity of title.
Yeah, it would. It would. In terms of adjacent, I think an adjacent to a homestead, you know, if you own an empty lot next to a homestead and it's a separate property, a separate parcel, I would see discount because I mean, that could be your side yard, essentially. I mean, that could be just part of your living if it's homesteaded. So I would agree to that particular reduction. I think $750 is a little high. Maybe I'm just, you know, more reasonable than other people, but so right now, if we approve this, it would be the first year would be 100, and that would be for 5 years.
No, it would be 200.
200, and then
on the 6th year, it goes up by $100 to $350 each year, and it doesn't change again, whether it's a vacant for 6
so
years.
take 5
or
years to get to
600 years.
750. It'll be $350 a year for 5 years, and then up to 750, or then at $100.
It starts out at 250.
Right.
And at 250, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Year 6, it goes to 350, and it's from there on, it's all the same.
And what happens,
Every year. Yes.
what do you do with the existing conditions?
Boy, I haven't called on you. Miss May had her light on.
Yeah, sorry, I've been waiting here very patiently,
Very
as have you. Okay, so my old house, I had the house and then I played defense and bought the lot next door, so it wouldn't get developed. And I still don't, I mean, there is no reason why I wouldn't put those 2 parcels together and then I put them together. They were now all homesteaded. It was a quick claim and $10, like it was easy. And then when I actually sold it as one parcel, but I could have separated it and sold it out. So I don't think that we need to be telling people that just because you're homesteaded and it's next door, that is so much work. That is stupid. If they don't want to pay, they can put their house together with their lot and then they don't have to pay. So having it and putting staff time on that is dumb. I definitely will not go for that.
What's that?
So if I have a house if I have an
Yeah.
empty lot next door, if I don't want to pay the $250, which is nothing for $250, if I don't want to pay that, then I put my pieces of property together and I don't pay it because it's one property now. If I want to sell it later, I separate it. Otherwise, I pay the $250. I don't want to have staff time tracing down these people for $250. That's stupid. Or $125 if we have it. No.
Mr. Segridge.
I would like to amend the motion to approve, but keep the fees the same as they currently are. So get rid of item number 1. And to eliminate item number 3 and modify item number 4 to include trespassing signs and no parking signs.
Who made the motion?
Anthony did.
You did, okay.
Yep.
So just for
I'm
clarity,
about to
could
call
you
on you, Mr.
clarify?
McVoy, Mr. McVoy, I'm about to call on you, I swear. Let me just, he just made a motion.
So I will amend my.
I'm
my-
asking for clarity.
And I need clarity too, sorry. So we got rid of 1, 2, and 3. We're adding no trespassing, no parking to 4. We're keeping 5, and we're adding fences to be secured by.
Why don't we
fence.
just put that the fees will be put in the fee schedule yearly, and then we don't have to have it in the motion?
Well, that's already already in our ordinance. But I also want you to look at number 6.
Mr. Waters?
Sure.
I'm not suggesting that we add fencing.
Oh, okay, so that came out.
Okay, well, I had asked for an unimproved properties to be fenced.
So we don't, let's see. All
The,
right,
the trouble with the fencing is PVSO can't get through it.
But the
And people-
positive with the
people
fencing
just-
is I don't have dumping and I don't have people parking their cars on the empty lots, and we don't have tent city.
Well, we can trade it, so the one that is fenced by us, it became a tent city and PVSO couldn't get back there because of the fence.
Okay, well, we're.
I mean, we're trading to, I just personally, I don't think fencing.
what?
So-
Ms. Meg?
Okay, so going back to your amended motion.
No, I want to take the
Commissioner
fencing
Hedrick,
off.
We got rid of 1, 2, 3. We added no trespassing, no parking. We left 5 the way it is. And then look at number 6, which gets at what the mayor mentioned. We're gonna work
Yep.
out some way to have the information listed on the website. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. McVoy.
Well, there's a motion.
Oh, well, there's a second.
I think that was the clarification I'm looking for.
Mr.
so if
McVoy,
I-
hold on one second, sir.
I'm
You-
not seconding because I
Okay, so
want
we-
unimproved properties to be fenced.
Okay, so we don't have a motion.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Mayor. I
Please
had
do.
that Commissioner Maliga made the motion and Commissioner
That's what I
May
thought.
seconded it. The
That's what-
original motion.
Yeah,
she did.
I thought the same thing, actually.
Okay.
Down Segerson Maliga, but okay. That was the
Um,
one before. Oh, that was the one before.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, I think
My
that-
bad,
yeah.
my bad.
Okay, so Ms. Malega
So-
made,
So
and.
So what is, I need to hear
Mr.
what
McVoy,
the
I will
motion
be-
is.
Mr. McVoy, I'm doing my best here, okay? So your motion, your original motion is,
So I will amend my original motion to excluding items 1, 2, and 3. On item 4, adding no trespassing signs, no parking signs. And then adding all unimproved properties to be fenced or secured, whatever.
okay, that's your motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. McVoy,
I want to understand what I'm voting on. So I think 1, 2, and 3 are out. So that would mean, if I understand correctly, that we would stick with the annually escalating fees that go up to $750 that we currently have in place. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and 4 and 5 and 6 stay as written with the addition of I forget,
Parking?
is fencing in or out?
Yes, I made a motion to include fencing or securing of all unimproved properties.
and sign for parking,
And no trespassing signs and parking signs.
no parking.
So
No
what we would
parking.
probably do is add a 7 for argument's sake, that it deals with all unimproved properties shall be fenced and or secured as appropriate.
Okay. Okay, does that help you, Mr. McVoy?
I think so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that going to prevent the sheriff from getting on the property, though? I do have that concern. Do you know, Madam Attorney?
If it has a no trespassing sign.
Depends on what's going on behind the fence.
What if it's a tent city?
Are you?
Well, this is where you could
Yeah.
get, is that where we like access in secured areas, there has to be a gate with a knock box on it.
What's that? Oh, what box?
A knock box is, it's a universal, it's a little box that has a universal access from both Palm Beach County Fire and I believe possibly Palm Beach Sheriff's Office would have access. They could open the gate and go on the property and deal with the issues. The problem that Mr. Cedric has mentioned is that many of our properties have a locked gate and they cannot jump over the gate necessarily. Unless I guess they are in chasing after a perpetrator of some sort and, they jump over the fence following somebody.
So when we.
But I think that we're talking about such an odd issue, an odd case. And that's why we have no trespassing signs
Right.
What do you mean
on the property. How often is that the case versus the dumping
I don't know
and
what
the
you're
cars
saying.
parked on the lots? Is it,
I have a question. When you say fencing, I mean, that, when you say fence, where's my fence? When you say fencing, you mean like wooden fence that you can't see behind?
No, I mean, anything that will deter people from dumping.
Okay, we have
Parking
fence
cars a lot.
regulations within the city.
Right, so it could be with a wood slatted fence, it could be picketed fence that you can see
But
through.
it never chain link because we don't like chain
Well, it
link,
could
which
be
would be the
chain link
one
on,
thing that
it
the
can be on
police would
chain
look at.
link behind the first property, the property setback along the sides and at the back. It can't be, from most of the areas that we have dealing with, you can't have chain link fence on the front. Now, as I just heard from the peanut gallery, which I appreciate, it could be a solid fence that you could not see through.
Which encourages people to have homeless camps.
But again,
If they can get
what
it.
are the chances that somebody who has an unimproved property is gonna go to that much, spend that much money? And again, if you look at the dumping that we have, in the areas that we have the dumping, that is not really the concern, so.
Wait. Mr. McBoy, I got a lot of lights on. Mr. Segrich, let's go try you.
So I do hear you on the dumping. The issue with the fencing that I have is, yeah. The issue I have with the fencing is an opaque fencing will create cover and it will create issues, at least in a lot of the ones near my house and where I walk. It is the fencing and the cover that is causing a lot of the problems with the camping and drug use. We do have dumping problems as well. That was alleviated. It wasn't quite a fence. It was more of a traffic barrier. It was like a chain and posts, which obviously you can very easily see through. I would be very much in support of some sort of barrier or traffic prevention, the triangles where if you pull your car over, you're going to blow your tires out of it. That would prevent people from getting it in parking or potentially dumping, versus, the fence. I also think some of these are in residential neighborhoods, and just having a lot of the construction fences that we have, they look horrible, because they end up doing the chain link with.
I was gonna say, could we give 2 or 3 choices
What you've
of
mentioned, and I
unimproved?
think if you all would like, appropriate fencing or securing a property as appropriate, what we can do, what's comes to mind, what we had this on the hog farm, are bollards, the one I grew up on. Yeah, oh yes, surprise, surprise. There were bollards anchored in the ground with chains in between that kept,
It's like it is in the greenways, so you can't drive through.
yes, and they have them a lot in Europe. And so we could carve out that on unimproved properties, you have to, this is what we're gonna say you have to do. You've got to do a bollard with the chain. It must be painted. That's your choice. Be done.
So
And
nobody
maybe
can drive onto it.
And I'll look at some other choices that we might have available. But it would be a separate carve out just for these properties, and we wouldn't let them up. If they wanted to do a traditional, I don't want to do that. We won't allow them to do regular fencing, because it might end up being where we have the issue that you're bringing up. You couldn't see through it and things happen behind it.
They could do the wood, what's that wood, the rail fence, like
Split rail.
that one, they could do that.
Barrier, yeah, a barrier.
Okay.
And
I'm sure there was split rail on the farm as well.
Yes. Not now.
It's 9:04. The mayor has left the building.
The mayor left.
I'll
All
look
right,
it up
so
on
where are we at?
Google
We have
while
a
we're
motion.
talking.
Mr. McBoy's hand is up. You quickly, Mr. McBoy, please.
Oh, no, I think I'm fine. I have a concern that we're dropping out 1, 2, 3, and 1 and 2 and 3, and that we are staying with the existing escalating fees. That's not acceptable to me.
Remind you, you'll have another crack at this when we bring you the schedule of fees and charges in a couple of months. And if you have changes of heart by that point, we could change it at that time.
Touche.
I'm not a big proponent of $750 a month, a year. I liked what they had said. I mean, I was okay with what the staff had proposed.
Yeah, I was too. I'm okay, and
but we're
particularly
losing.
if the adjacent.
We're not winning. Can't afford. It's all in the vote. So, okay, so we have a motion to approve it.
I have a public comment, Madam Mayor.
Public comment. Thank you, ma'am. Ramsey, thank you. I'll be right with you. So the motion is to allow it to the way the staff has proposed. No, not a way, no, not 1, 2, 3, not there. Some sort of barrier.
That's visible.
No, I want
agree
an
with that.
invisible barrier.
So they get an electric shock when they walk across.
Everybody has to start wearing collars.
We have one public comment from Ms. McLeod.
I gotta turn this off.
Okay, this may be a little discombobulated because when I went to print out my notes, I was out of ink. So
You
I'm
got
gonna
2
fly off the
minutes.
cuff here.
Deal with it.
Ramsey McLeod, 24 South C Street. I like a lot of your comments. My biggest concern about this, I like the suggestion about alternative fencing because we do have a empty lot that they drive off of D Street through the empty lot. Not only have they dumped there, but they use as a cut through to get to the alleyway, they get the houses on the other side. I know that one. I'm sure there's others in the city like that. So I think having some sort of barrier puts a blockage there and it allows PBSO to have the authority to go in and address anyone who they see driving through there or anything like that. We need that. As for the fees, I absolutely do not agree with giving them any kind of break. And I'm sorry, Mayor, but I'm concerned. I read that whole 385 page report, and there are people land banking in our own city. We have done more than any other city in this county to address affordable housing and put our efforts into it. And that we're shooting ourselves in the foot on the other side when we let these people, even if they live in this city, they're doing a detriment to all the residents because they're sitting on land that either the CRA could develop into housing or developer could come in and put apartments on it or something. So I feel we do need some sort of a deterrent. I'm not against people investing, but if it's right next to your property, put it together or do something with it. Otherwise, you're sitting on land that could become housing for some other resident in the city. And that's what I'm against. Providing them a way to have a shelter to land bank, even if it's one parcel. Just sitting on that land is a detriment to our ability to create affordable housing for all the residents in our city, and not just people who have the income or the ability to invest and sit on land so we can't do anything with it. And they're not being motivated to sell it or develop it or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. On number 5, where it says appropriate window clings on improved properties, is that? Yeah, right. Yes, I realize that. Are we, is that just to block it out or do they have to, we don't, it's a little vague.
There has been great consternation over the fact that our current code, which is by law, allows other things other than window clings, vignettes, other things to fill the windows of buildings that are vacant.
Right.
And so I'm trying to capture the criticism that we don't have a requirement that specifically says you must put window clings in your vacant windows on the major thoroughfares.
Attractive, like pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what they are. Okay, appropriate, words like appropriate make me nervous.
Well, see, this is not what's actually, I've got to come back with an ordinance change to deal with 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
But you're providing clear direction so we can bring you back something specific and then you can chew at it again, hopefully before this time at night and
Before 9, before 10 after 9. No, we haven't voted yet. We have not, we're not there yet. We're almost there. So we have comments, we have, are there any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I have one.
Well, let's hear it.
Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. While this registry did likely make sense during the 2008 mortgage foreclosure crisis, I think parts of it have outlived its usefulness. When it comes to unimproved land, there is no reason for the city to need to have land registered with the city and then to charge property owners a tax on top of the taxes they already pay through the tax system. If the city needs to know who the owner is, the city can simply look it up on the property appraiser web system. And why is the city charging a yearly fee to undeveloped property owners? It seems to simply be a money grab and an escalating one at that, and serves no purpose. If a piece of undeveloped land becomes overgrown or has trespassing or dumping on it, the city can deal with those issues through code enforcement. The extra fee appears to be just an extra fee. I have less concerns about the registry for developed properties. As we have seen with the CRA buildings that were to be moved, letting developed properties sit vacant year after year attracts crime, squatting, and sadly destruction of the property. That's final comment for this evening.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. All right, so we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, I oppose for exactly the reasons stated in the last comment.
Okay, so that's a nay. So I'm gonna go with it. I'll be an A and I, and we can dither around with the numbers later, but, and Ms. Malega has left the building. I know. All right, so it passes 4-1. Next up, and finally, oh God, City Hall assessment, review, City Hall Annex Building Assessment Review. And this is a sad one.
It's a sad one?
It's sad because we need a lot of money that we don't have.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, City Hall Annex. We obviously hired, the building needs a lot of work, as we know. We needed to have this overall assessment done on the building so we could at least get an estimate of probable cost. It obviously took a while for them to go in. They had to, they called it delicate demo in a lot of different areas so we could put it back. So we could actually get to a lot of the structural elements of the building to get a real sense of the current condition and how that compares to current building code and everything else. So we obviously have that report attached to the backup with an estimate of almost 6.3. That's definitely on the shy side, I believe, because I know there's going to be some additional stuff that's going to need to be done in order to get, like they mentioned, the building envelope and some other things that have to be done. But even if we say we're looking around 7, we had set aside $2 million in ARPA funds, which we knew at the time was just a partial amount. From that, we paid for the assessment, which we had planned to do, as well as we put aside $225,000 of that to go toward the roof, which we already have the bids in. That's already closed. We did come in under on that, and we're kind of going through that right now to make that selection. So with about 1.6 and change left from that, almost 1.7, we're obviously well shy of what it would cost. But the main point for tonight wasn't really to discuss where that's going to come from, but we need to have a conversation in terms of what do all of you view the future use of this building to be? Obviously, before it was shut down, we had customer service in there, which is now moved to the Promenade at 2nd Avenue North. I know there wasn't a real clamoring for them to return to that building. Obviously, no. You've got leisure service. We don't know if there is a need for a department to go back in there. If you guys would like something else, I know, Madam Mayor, you had mentioned the museum to remain on the 2nd floor, Art League, some other uses. There have been other things thrown out about possibly having other entities come in or commercial entities come in or something like that. So let's have a conversation. And then we're obviously about to roll into budget and everything as well. This is one of the things on a list of many things that will require some funding that we're going to have some hard conversations on. So I thought this is a perfect time to kick off this one.
Just as a first question, do you think, have we looked into it all? Are there any grants for restoration of historic buildings?
No.
He left. He's done.
When he has more as far as the historical and when it comes to buildings. So when he comes back in, I'll have him kind of go into that.
Yes. Okay.
He did leave his bag.
Okay, because that would be one.
I wasn't going to say it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about where do we find $5 million, and what do we use it for once we get the $5 million and fix up the building.
Correct, because we do have multiple issues as far as facilities that are old and need fixed. We have infrastructure hanging out there. We have, you name it, a lot of different things as far as capital improvement projects. So
it's huge.
Yeah.
And this is a 100-year-old building that has never had any upgrading and was seriously overused for many, many years. I mean, when you walked into that store, when you walk in from the Lucerne side, that first store, I mean, the amount of weight put on that floor from the storage of every electric bill from the past 100 years in the city was really hard on the building. So, what do you want? We can talk about, I mean, we can theoretically talk about what to use the building for, but we don't have a building to do it. Where do you want to start? Money or use?
It would be nice to, since we haven't had this conversation publicly, it'd be nice to hear what each one of you feel as far as what your ideas are for
Okay.
what you feel the building should be used for. Is it something we should not look to monetize or have staff go back into or have like nonprofits operate out of, or, you know what I mean? Just,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different things.
Okay, let's go by district. So we're gonna talk about you.
Madam Mayor, I did have my hand raised at the beginning
few
as I did before.
Lights here. Mr. McFoy, there's a few lights on here, so I'm just gonna go district by district. So you'll be after Ms. Malega.
I had a clarifying question that might be for staff that might be relevant to this discussion, if I could make that question.
Ask the question.
Okay, thank you. I saw in the reading the
Question,
WGI report.
not a lecture, a question, Mr. McFoy. What's the
May I
question?
please get to my question without interruption? It just
Well-
slows things down. In the WGI report, it seemed to make a distinction in terms of the cost to the city as to what the use was. I want to make sure I understand that correctly. If it was assembly for the whole building, it seemed to be somewhat cheaper. And my question is, could a museum plus art league plus perhaps spaces for other community organizations, perhaps a maker space, would that still be assembly or would that kick it into mixed use? And that's, if we could get clarity on that,
Thank you.
that would, because it has a cost implication if I understood the backup correctly.
Thank you. Does it make a difference?
William Waters, I walked in a little late and you're looking at me as the acting sort of architect of record for the city. Yes, I believe what he just described would constitute a mixed occupancy. And based also on the square footage of this, the building, and this happened with us at the courthouse, as I was involved with that downtown West Palm Beach, it would require to add a sprinkler system, which I do not believe the building has right now.
So in order to have the museum, the art league, and a couple other little community things, we'd have to sprinkle it?
More than likely, yes. You'd also have to have probably, there are, and this comes up, especially if you museum would stay there. There are certain performance requirements for museum occupancy that are required in order to get certain kinds of public grants. It's not the wisest idea to have a sprinkler system in a building where you have expensive artwork or artifacts. So what you have as an alternative is a halon system, which sucks all the air out of the building, but is really expensive. But it then qualifies you to be able to apply for grants that can help you do visitations of certain sorts. And so there's, I mean, the museum is probably one of the most expensive uses in users that we could have in that building. Office would be the least expensive.
Okay, thank you. If we keep it as a museum, we would have to sprinkle it or not?
Technically, from what I've seen, in terms of the condition of the building, the museum really can't stay there until we deal with the ADA compliance issues, the fire suppression issues, and a couple of other things, because the level of any kind of remediation that we're going to do there to renovate the building is going to kick it over the 50% rule, which then means it has to come up to current code, unless we take advantage of the historic exemptions under the building code because it is contributing. However, those exemptions do not absolve you of life safety and ADA compliance.
Well, we're talking about an elevator for the ADA.
Elevator, sprinkler systems, accessibility, restrooms, a variety of other things. A traditional commercial grade HVAC system is not really the best thing for a museum or gallery type space. You want to be able to control the humidity to a certain level range, which is far lower than what we would require, what will be allowed under a traditional commercial system. Humidity can be very detrimental to museum artifacts.
Humidity, yeah.
Humidity.
Well, I mean, that begs the question, are we willing to give up a museum? As part of our conversation. Okay, so
Or do you consider possibly another alternative location for the museum?
where would that be?
The 4 quadplex that needs to be moved, and then we can make it a walkable.
No, it's
Museum.
still- that would still have to.
Or if, you know, where we have to have a facilities discussion, 17 South M might be an appropriate, that's the building that's being moved to the end of the parking garage with its little garage building. That might be a home for the museum.
Is that ADA compliant now?
No.
No. Well,
Would it-
neither is
would it
the
have- Would it
quadplex.
have to be made to be?
Yes.
Yes.
And how would you do the humidity requirement in 17M? I would think that would be even harder to do there than in the cement block building. I don't know.
Well, the
Well, where is the cement block building?
yeah, what's cement block building?
What the annex?
Annex is a frame construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Partially cement block, but its structural system on the inside and on the floors is actually frame.
Right.
Right.
All right.
Okay,
So,
I don't know.
all right, thank you. Our lights are on. Let's go by district. District 1.
So that was actually gonna be my comment, is that I've been stating for years that the museum should not be in this building. And it should be in a walkable focal point of our community, if it's the Lake Worth Historical Museum. So I know that we have another conversation coming up in regards to the quadplex that we have to move. It's a historical building. To me, it would make more sense to renovate that historical building to hold our historical museum than to redo this building. There's a million things we could do with this building. It's in the heart of our downtown. I don't think it should be office spaces, even though that would be the least financially for us to do. I personally think this is a great opportunity for us to go out for a triple P if we don't need this space for staff. Because this could be a great food hall, like we talked about having different food venues coming in. I could see 3 or 4 or 5 different food people being in this building, and then using the cultural plaza with the bistro lights and tables and really activating this part of our downtown. Because right now, that building needs to be celebrated, and I don't think it is. When you just go in to pay your electric bill and you turn around and walk out. So if we're gonna spend this money, I think that now is a great opportunity for us to look and say, okay, is this a good opportunity for a triple P? Do we try to bring the right partner in? And I don't want to see it be wasted on just the normal uses that it's been in the past. I really would like, and the mayor, you've talked about a food hall or a shared kitchen experience, and those are really trending. And I think if we can capitalize on helping stimulate this part of our downtown, this is where we see a lot of the places fail on Lucerne and on Lake Avenue. People get to the corner of M and they stop. So if we can activate this and really put thoughtful purpose into this building, I think that's our job. That is our number one job up here, is how do we take this opportunity to activate this part of our community? It's not about the dollar figure. It's not about what are we going to do with it. It's what is the best purpose for the city for the next 50, 60, 70 years.
Thank you. Mr. McBoy?
Yeah, I agree that it's a very central location. Seems like probably all of us would agree that it's a pretty special location. The Cultural Plaza as a gathering point, we use it a lot for that, and I think that's pretty good. It would be nice if the building served some clear public purpose. So I agree, using it for office space seems like the least high use of that, even though, as we've heard, it's perhaps the least expensive to do. I'm not sure that I see a food court as a very high use of it. I don't see a problem with, in terms of usage, not necessarily in terms of cost, but in terms of usage, using it, part of it for a museum, using part of it for Art League, both seem, and maybe some other community organizations. Some of you will remember that I'm a very big fan of maker spaces, that we ought to have somewhere that is an active place for young people to learn things that go in new technology directions, and actually do things as a central part of the city. I would see uses more like that as the right thing. The idea that the vice mayor referred to that the mayor has talked about a while back of a community kitchen to incubate, that could be a possibility. I don't know how well kitchens combine with other things, but that might be something very community oriented would be my inclination.
Thank you.
Public benefit.
Okay, thank you. Ms. May.
Thank you. So I just have a question for Vice Mayor Maliga. Are you thinking like Grandview Market in West Palm?
It's exactly what I was thinking. but
Okay.
I was thinking a version like in Tampa that's much smaller.
Yeah, no, and then you're right. There are several places like that that are pretty cool. I personally think two things. One, I think that this is the prime opportunity for a P3. And I think we put out, I mean, not necessarily an unsolicited one, a solicited one. Hey, what ideas do you have? I also think that this is also an extremely good time to hear from the public. Possibly get public opinion on what type of thing that they would like. The $6.3 million literally just gets it to code. I'm gonna be blunt here. We don't have that money. We're not gonna have that money. We're not gonna rebuild this building by ourselves. It's gonna sit there and it's gonna fall apart. Point blank. So either we put out and we try to get a P3 and we get some sort of activation of it that by doing that, I think what will end up happening is that you will have some investment in it. There will be some sort of, I don't know what the idea is. I bet there's some really cool ideas, but I think that then the benefit also is that there could be a community space in there, as well as whatever it's activated as, you know, by whatever developer wants to develop it. But I just don't want us to be, and I don't mean to sound negative, but I don't want us to think that we're just gonna put all of these little lack of money making things in this building. It's just not gonna happen.
When you say that, you mean like the people who are gonna go in it? I don't follow.
I'm thinking about like the Art League and the museum and like those are great if we were a multi-billion-dollar city and we had all this surplus places and we had this cute little thing where we could be like, oh yeah, we have so much money, you can go in there. That's so cute. We don't have that. That's not where we are right now. Maybe one day we will be, but we're not. And I think that also the quadplex is a different conversation, so I don't really want to go there now, but I really want to hear from, because if you said to me, Mimi, what's your idea? I don't know. And that's not because I mean, I teach sixth grade. I don't do development. So I want to hear from professionals. What could we do? What's some ideas? What's some things that people do in other places? Like that's a beautifully cool building. And I bet it could turn into something awesome. I have a feeling that it's not going to happen funded by Lake Worth Beach.
Mr. Segrich.
So I would just like to reiterate, I definitely, we have to do the roof. We got to protect the building so it doesn't get more damage. The three words that stood out for me in the analysis were mold, asbestos, and lead. And being in that industry, I can tell you the $333,000 or $37,000 estimate is way low. We hit that on a single family home, let alone a 11 or 13,000 square foot building. So, I then look at, some of the uses that were suggested, all office or museum combination, possibly housing staff there. And I just look at what we have going on. We've got staff in 120 North Federal. We've got staff at 1900, staff at 501 Lake, staff at 27 South M, City Hall, Public Works Building, staff in the casino complex. Regardless of what we do with this building, we really do need a facilities plan where we understand where are all our staff going to be. We have several new buildings that are getting constructed. And I think that with a little bit of planning, we can figure out the best way to reorganize that. There's also been talk about some sort of integrated city hall, like a P3, which I think is a brilliant idea and something we should explore. So I think just in general from us here, giving vision and direction to staff, I would like to see something like that happen. Now, as far as this building itself, I would agree with what other people have said about the public-private partnership for this. I think the city, we really need to start getting out of the business of thinking we can run businesses. I think we need to turn to business leaders and say, come on in and give us your ideas for free. I will jump up and down and scream if we suggest we're going to do a study for the highest and best use of this. I think we need to put this out there. We've got a habit of not properly monetizing our best assets. We have a bad habit of that. There are several large buildings in this city that are offered out for next to no money. And we can't afford to continue to give that away. I believe in, developing something here to really activate the downtown. So I love the idea that you guys were talking about, the bistro, the maybe the restaurants and so on, like a Faneuil Hall concept or something that's really going to activate that area, bring life to it. Music, people, not only going up and down Lake Lucerne, but traversing up and down the side street area there, right? Get to more of that walkable feel. What shape that takes, I don't know. And I would love to hear from, companies with these visions, like we've seen to start coming in. So I would be all for putting it out for a public-private partnership. And I agree with Ms. May. We are not going to pay for this out of our current budget. And as a city, we have to be looking at how are we going to increase our revenues. And we can either build in, and we've had challenges doing that. We can build up, which nobody wants to do. Or we could annex property, which is virtually impossible from what I know. So, every opportunity like this, and you look at this is such a key aspect of our city. I see it as both an opportunity to exercise our new P3 policy, bring something awesome to the city, also turn that into a revenue driving engine. And if you look at a lot of the criticism we've received of some of the big projects that come into the city with the Bohemian and its garage and the financial deal we made there, some of the criticisms of the WMOTA on, people are saying we're giving the house away on it. This is a real opportunity to do it right from the get-go, and really bring something beautiful and wonderful to the city. So I would like to see us really hold this out for a public-private partnership. And just knowing it, I know from being in this industry, this thing's a gut. There's no saving the inside, and it's just repairing the shell. So, I do appreciate the nostalgic ideas of what's been in there and what it was and how it did benefit the city then. But to move forward, we're starting at a complete blank slate. And, hopefully we'll get, some private entities that want to come in and do see a way of incorporating the Art League into it or something like that, maybe, if they can monetize it in other ways and so on. But I don't think we're going to get there without exploring the public-private partnership.
Thank you. It's not a big building. So, in terms of public-private partnerships, we're talking about making it a restaurant. What?
Opening it up.
Okay.
Requesting proposals.
Okay. I'm a little nostalgic. It is, I hate to see, who cares about the museum? We'll find a place for it. Okay. That is part of our history. And I just don't want to see it packed up into boxes and be discounted because I feel that's actually critical. Now, whether that could be the fourplex when it gets moved, which would still have to be ADA compliant, so that wouldn't solve that problem. The money is I'm not unrealistic though. I realize that we don't have $5,000 or $6 million to put into it. I would be very careful. If we did decide to put out an RFP for it or a triple P request or whatever, we could see what comes in, but and I know that we need the money, and monetize is your big word, and I understand that. I'm just a little concerned about throwing away the history at the same time that we monetize our oldest, most historic building in the city. So I'm torn. Because I want that museum someplace. We just can't really say, put it in a box and let it go. That it took a long time to get there. That's and we have no other alternative for it.
No, that's why I wouldn't say put it in a box and go. I'm 100% for keeping the museum, but it should be a walkable focal point for our community.
Well, where would that be?
I mentioned if we're
Well,
moving.
right, but then we
gotta-
have to do that ADA compliant as well, which we wouldn't
exactly,
have-
but if it's something that we want to save, if we know we're monetizing this and we're getting value out of this building, which should bring value, then it helps us balance the books and the needs.
Well, I'd be very interested to see what comes in with an RFP. I mean, I would. I will certainly entertain what comes in, but I'm probably of the group of five the most skeptical about this because again, it's an ancient historic building that for many, many years was overused and never maintained. And here we are sitting with another thing that was never maintained and always overused to deal with. So
I don't know, Mayor, if you're the most, but I'm close behind you if, as far as, you know, I agree with your sentiments on the importance of the historic and some of the historic uses. Not
Thank you.
necessarily the electric billing, that I think we could live without that historic use.
right. You know, I mean, so I am, you know, if the will of the commission is to open it up and do a RFP or a whatever, triple P, whatever, we can check our new, I mean, I'll be interested to see it, but I'll be very interested to see if we have anything that actually makes sense in terms of using that building. I mean, maybe, you know, like the library in Tallahassee, right? That building became a beautiful restaurant, a beautiful bar. So yeah, but I just want to put on the record that I think the Art League needs to be considered, and I think that the museum needs to be considered, no matter what we come up with. I just think that's too important to just go, oh, we need to monetize, forget the history, forget the people that have been in this, the group that's been here since 1942. And
Here,
so,
here.
so that's, I also am a realist, and I know that a lot of people don't want, there are many people in the city that don't want any changes. They don't want any new buildings. They don't want anything to happen, and we cannot preserve the city in amber. It is a changeable thing. I mean, it's not going to look like it is 100 years from now. I don't think we're going to have the same thing that's here right now. But we won't be here to know, but we need to make a good platform for it. So if the desire of the commission is to go out and try to do some RFP or triple P or whatever, I won't, you know, I mean, I'll go along with it. And in the meantime, we fix the roof to protect it. What about the windows? Are the windows, I mean, we were supposed to be redoing the windows.
The windows have not been done.
I
by the
know,
way.
that's bad.
Yeah,
That
we
was-
did the library. We systematically each year we're doing.
Right.
So we finally got City Hall done. The
Right.
library is done now. So we've
What if
done
we invested the money in the roof and the windows?
the
why
windows
not?
is it's quite a hefty. Well, here comes.
Well, I know it's a lot of money.
If I might suggest that we
Sure.
spend, if you want to spend a little bit of extra money, we ensure that the windows that we have now are watertight.
Okay, whatever.
Not
yeah.
replace them, because keep in mind that there are a number of options that will be available under a P3 that could be beneficial for a developer to spend more money on the building than we could otherwise do.
That's fine. Just so
But
it's, I want to secure the building. I don't want this to happen, what happened to our,
Well, we can use that $2 million to do that. Make sure that we keep it in the conditions it's in, at least now,
that's all I'm
today.
saying. Because I don't want it to happen what happened to some of our buildings on L Street, which just, you know, became empty and rotten. So where are we at?
So once we finalize the P3 policy and everything and bring that back for consideration to get all that actually approved through the commission, I guess this would be our first shot of putting out an actual solicited P3.
Yeah, and Mr. Segwich, I couldn't agree with you more about, which is why I've been fighting and getting nowhere yet. We need a city hall. We need a building. I mean, it's lovely to be in this charming old building, but I think the building department needs to be in the same building as the city manager, which needs to be the same, you know, there are outcroppings, public works, you know, things like that, but this doesn't function as a building. There's no dropping in and saying, hey, what do you think about this? It's like, I've got to call Mr. Waters and he's 2 miles away and hope he's there. I just really, really want a new city hall. And even if I'm not the mayor, I'm going to keep fighting for this darn thing because it's really so important to this city to get I mean, we go to Green Acres and they've got this beautiful city hall. We go to Green Acres and they've got this beautiful community building where they're doing this thing. And Green Acres has no debt. So I want to, I don't even know how they did that. So, so. Well, it's bigger, yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm reluctantly going to agree. Kicking and screaming. Mr. Segrich?
I was just going to say, there's nothing from precluding us when we put this solicitation out there that we would weight heavily those options who will consider somehow taking care of the museum or the art league.
Right.
And we've seen, in the public, the triple Ps that we've gotten, some pretty creative solutions to certain nostalgic items and historic things that we don't want to go away. And we've seen them be quite generous in their handling of that. So, if we put that in there, you might be pleasantly surprised at what we get.
If I am, I'd be delighted. So direction to staff is to put, after we get the triple P thing done, to do it out for, I'm pointing at you. To get it out and to then put it out for a triple P thing. Okay.
What is the
I'm not
time
gonna
frame do you
fight
think?
City
Because
Hall.
one thing that drives me nuts of being here for 4 years is how long it takes us to get back.
Everything
So I
takes
don't want to
long.
see this item come back in December to go out for an RFP for triple P. So how long do we think?
I'm sure there's people listening, or we're going to hear tomorrow, who want to develop, who are going to start unsolicited.
But I'm just at staff, since we have this report from WGI.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think realistically our time frame would be to go out to bid?
So based on direction we got tonight on the unsolicited proposal policy, I'll make those changes. I'll get those to the attorney. I would assume something depending on schedule. We're probably going to be looking at either the first or second meeting in July. I plan on bringing this back for your approval, the actual policy. And once that's done, then we can start working on, and again, this will be our first
How long
one.
does it take to prepare a proposal like that? Because you've got nothing else to do and it's budget season, but hey.
I didn't know that I was taking the lead on it, but anyway.
Tag, you're it.
You should have left when you had the chance.
It's okay. No, I told my mistake. It shouldn't take more than like 6 weeks to put on something. I mean, we need to talk to a couple people, and I can
Oh.
favor some people to like factor in some things and put them on sort of like an ad alt list of whether you're open to it or not. Because I have done in ancient history times, some triple P work with a private developer that made use of certain tax credits and tax incentives that a city could not necessarily utilize, but they were able to do it. And this was doing a city hall in St. Mary's, Georgia, and then there was another city hall in Kingsland, Georgia, and some other stuff. And there are 20% investment tax credits under historic preservation, which the Gulfstream is used. There are going to be some, like them or not, there are going to be some foreign investment tax credits that are going to be coming through the federal government that might be utilized to be invested in a project that might make it more financially feasible than it would otherwise.
Unfeasible?
More feasible.
Feasible.
More feasible. And so I think we try to that will be the creative part in terms of what we could include, what we were open to accepting in a P3 solicitation. But that shouldn't take more than because
I mean, you could start now because we're going to have the change in.
And Valentina is a whiz on this.
Yeah, she's really good about that stuff. So, okay, you have direction. Mr. Brown would like to say something.
Before there is a motion for adjournment, I just wanted to thank all 5 of you because we had 4 pretty big items on the agenda tonight. I know we almost got to 10 o'clock, but staff has clear direction on all 4 of these items on how to move forward. So I just wanted to thank all of you very much.
Well,
Look
we're
at us.
working,
Thank
we're
you for your
working
hard
down the
work.
list. We're
Thank you for
working
your hard
down the
work.
list. Yes. And listen, we know that we put a lot on staff when we do this stuff, but it is what it is. So do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have second?
Second.
Third.
Oh, okay.
Wait, public comment.
There's a card. Mr.
Sorry, Miss Fisher.
God.
Sorry. I
Ms.
apologize.
Fisher, come on up.
Peggy Fisher, 508 8th Street.
Right, really?
You guys suck.
508 North 8th Street.
Northeast Street.
You guys
Turn
suck.
the
Let me
microphone
tell you
on.
how.
All right. Shh.
You know,
I thought you would welcome public comment, but I'm tired of coming up here and being berated for making public comment with all these comments. And I'm just gonna put that out there, whether it's yelling at me in the utility meeting, don't you have a comment? You know, I'm one of the few people who sit here every meeting. So, you know, give it a break. And my comment is this, you talk about time frame. Well, 3 years ago, the customer service moved out. That's cost the city over those 3 years, over $300,000. So every year that it's where it is over $100,000, more than what was being paid before. This item for assessment of the annex was before you all almost 2 years ago. So I know you're concerned about time frame. My concern was, why did it take 2 years to do an assessment? And so we need to be, you know, I'm glad you asked, when is this going to come back? When is this going to be issued? I would like to see that action of asking, where's the response to this? Where do we stand on that? A little bit more from the commission, because, you know, why should I be able to pull up something and say it's taken 2 years to get this assessment? Just think if you had had this a year ago and the things that could have been discussed and could have been addressed and everything else. You know, every year is more money, and the longer it takes, the less attention it gets, the more it costs, and it costs the taxpayers. So that was my comment, was just to say, it's a shame things take so long. And the annex, I've asked several times, and I know I asked city manager, when was this coming? But I think every one of you, other than those who haven't been here for 2 years, should be concerned that 2 years ago, you approved doing an assessment on the annex. And now 2 years later, you finally have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? We have a, oh, Mr. Brown.
Do you want me to,
Mr.
do
Brown?
you want me to address that quickly?
Sure.
As you all know, there was a change in administration. Staff under administration does what we are directed to do. So we have some different people now in different positions. So we're bringing things forward. Just look at our agenda tonight, for example. I'll leave it at that. I mean, you guys can kind of put the pieces together, but I'll leave it at that. So we're taking care of a lot of the things that have kind of been on the stove for quite a while. And now we're moving those pots off because we have a lot of other things that we need to now put on the stove. So
Thank
we are
you.
moving
I mean, some of the stuff has been on the stove
I know.
for decades. So we're working on it. It's causing a house fire. So, all right, no, it does take longer than we wanted to. It always does. I mean, but there have been a lot of extenuating circumstances in the past couple of years. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?